Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SummerSlam 2023 review. And I believe we have a new champion. Is that right?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the new GoAWrestling champion of the world. So it turns out that you were a transitional champion after all.
Yeah.
Yep, you're the Buddy Rogers of this reign, of this lineage.
No, I'm the Finn Balor.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good point.
Literally, just yeah. Well, what would be a champion that was like first, but then lost their first defense? There's probably a bunch.
I mentioned Buddy Rogers, the first ever WWF champion, and he had to lose it to Bruno Sammartino in his first defense immediately because of an illness.
Right.
He didn't even win the belt either. It was just given to him. So the belt was given to him, and then he lost it.
Yeah, but I won it fairly. I won it initially very fairly.
Yeah. Although, well, the way that championship was created was because Buddy Rogers was the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. And then this was back in the territory days when certain promotions would say, I don't recognize this loss as legit, so I'm going to make my own championship. So he lost the NWA belt, but the McMahon said, no, we don't recognize that loss, so we're going to make our own company that's separate and have our own belt. And he's our champion. But then he immediately lost it. Anyway, we're not here to talk about 1963, we're here to talk about 2023. And we have quite an interesting show to talk about with a lot of controversy, I'd say. For many, many reasons. It's not just one specific thing. There's a lot of things that were talked about going into this show and coming out of this show.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah. We're also 1 year since Triple H did his first premium live event, which was SummerSlam 22 last year. So we've had 1 year of as Triple H of head of creative with some outside influences. And I have to say, it's been interesting.
Oh yeah, it's been a strange year.
Yeah. Just thinking about what is my overall thoughts on this pay-per-view, I don't know if I can pin it down. This is a really, really, really diverse show with a lot going on. I can't, maybe by the end of the review, I'll have a more definitive statement on what I thought of this show. But I don't know. There's a lot. There's a lot of stuff. One thing I can definitely say about this show is it was fucking long. It was like 4 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was one of the, quite long.
I think I believe it might be the longest SummerSlam pay-per-view ever. Yeah, this was the same length as Double or Nothing 2022. That was the show when CM Punk won the belt off Hangman Page. That show was also 4 hours and 20 minutes, I think. Or something similar to that. But yeah, this was a fucking long show. Very long show. Not to say that I was tired, but I can definitely say the crowd was tired. Because the Detroit crowd for the second half of this show was dead. And I think maybe it's because we came off Money in the Bank where the UK fans were white hot all night. I for some reason this crowd just wasn't, for the most part. They just were not.
No, surprisingly so.
Yeah, and I was thinking it's weird because Ford Field Stadium, it's a closed stadium. It's not like it's open. So I'm thinking, is it because the noise is escaping out the air of the building? But I just think maybe it's the area they're in. It's the length of the show. Potentially it's some of the booking. I don't know. But I just feel like it's in terms of like big four pay-per-views and possibly even pay-per-views itself, I feel like this was one of the weakest crowds we've had in a while.
Yeah, because I feel like it's this running thing of discussion where American crowds are often, more times than not, pretty weak in comparison to any other international show you would like go to. Like, we've had a string of like international pay-per-views on programming. Like, we've had Puerto Rico, we had Canada, you know, in February. We had obviously the UK last month.
Yep, and we had Saudi Arabia.
We had Saudi. Well, from what I heard, Saudi also wasn't that loud, apart from the main event, seemingly. But it's the American crowd, and especially week to week on Raw and SmackDown, has always been, you know, pointed out as quite weak crowds. So, and this is the first pay-per-view in front of American crowd since WrestleMania, unless I'm forgetting a pay-per-view.
Well, yeah, if we're talking
we're
talking WWE pay-per-views, yeah, it's the first one since WrestleMania that's been in America.
Yeah, but even then, you'd expect, you know, it's SummerSlam, which is probably the biggest pay-per-view, the second biggest pay-per-view of the calendar year. And for the most part, it was relatively like fine. There were huge reactions at times of where the crowd being involved, but there were definitely, especially towards the end and in some matches, sometimes the crowd's fault, sometimes not. We'll get to that later. It was a very strange crowd, I guess.
I think the one thing I noticed is that there was barely any chanting on this show. There was
that's actually there is. Yeah.
You know, there was cheers and boos, but hardly any chanting, like hardly any, you know, singing. I mean, maybe again, Money in the Bank had a lot of chanting because it was England, but this show just fucking barely any of it. Maybe the occasional "This is awesome" or something really generic.
There were a couple "This is awesome" stuff, but even then, those weren't particularly loud.
Yeah, and you know, they sang for like Cody's entrance and Seth's entrance and LA Knight and all that, but no, for the most part, this was really, really, really bland. And
those were I would say those are sort of the high points of the crowd.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, is it to do with Detroit? But then I remember they went to this building for WrestleMania 23 in 2007, and it was pretty. It wasn't like one of the greatest crowds of all time, but I do remember for the big matches on that show, the crowd was pretty loud. So I don't know. I don't know what to put, what to place it on. Really, I don't really get what happened. But yeah, it is what it is.
Also, in a lot of comparisons, other than a couple matches, you know, I would say this card, in comparison to something like Mania, and even to Money in the Bank last month, there are a couple of matches that maybe because of poor building, really, you know, didn't have a lot of heat going into those matches. Like, I would say, like the Ricochet Logan Paul match, Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey, like those kind of matches just didn't have the build in comparison to a couple of other matches, and maybe that felt quite dysfunctional at times. I don't know. I just think I definitely think the crowd wasn't on the same level as what we've had, you know, even just this whole year so far. This is probably the weakest pay-per-view crowd we've had this year.
I watched SummerSlam, and I watched the press conference, and then I went to bed. I slept. I woke up, and then I watched Collision. And Collision's crowd in Greenville, South Carolina, was significantly louder, and that was in a small arena. This was in a stadium.
But then you could say like that's a very enclosed space. The mics probably picked them up a bit.
It's also in the heart of, you know, the Carolinas, which was, you know, where Jim Crockett Promotions did a lot of their mid-Atlantic shows back in the 80s, and that's a big wrestling town. But the passion was significantly noticeable in the difference between the two crowds on those shows, which is weird because SummerSlam is by far way, way more significant in terms of its prestige. But that's neither here nor there. We should also probably talk about a match that wasn't on this show, controversially. Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch. Which I've heard someone asked Triple H about this at the press conference, why it wasn't on this show. And he kind of gave an interesting answer where he said something along the lines of, the idea is you're supposed to have an overflow of matches to the point where if something got cancelled, you could replace it with something that's worth watching. But I still don't think that quite answers the question, because I genuinely believe that Trish versus Becky is more important than some of the matches that were on this card. And I don't think he wants to give you the answer, because one of the matches that was on this card was put on the card because of product placement. So you can't not have it because the Slim Jim, company needs to have the match on the pay-per-view because that's what they've paid for. And then there's also the fact that with the circumstance of Ronda Rousey leaving for either the foreseeable future or for a while, it being a pay-per-view for that significance for her request makes sense for that specific reason. And then you've got, something like a Logan Paul match is always going to be on a pay-per-view anyway. So there are circumstances that he hasn't mentioned that are probably inconvenient for him to bring up. But just as a fan of professional wrestling and its history, I find it very strange that it still wasn't on the card. I know that he says something along the lines of, well, this show was really long, and if it had been any longer, it would have been bad. It's like, yeah, I know that, but we're not saying add the Becky Trish match onto everything that we already got, and we're saying take some stuff out and replace it. That doesn't need to be on the show, because what you should be having is all of them, the most prestigious matches on the show. But yeah, it just seems like it's just come down to circumstances, and probably down to the fact of, well, Slim Jim doesn't want their battle royal on a pre-show. They want it to be on the main card, don't they? Which then leads me into something that I complained a lot about in the last pay-per-view review we did, and that is product placement. There was a lot of product placement on the show. It wasn't as in your face as the Bud Light stuff from Money in the Bank, but it was definitely present. I think the one where it was the most...
Oh no, the Bianca Belair entrance with the C4 energy drink was kind of insanely... Like, when she came out with that, I could tell straight away that can was empty, because from the way she flipped it, it's clear there was nothing in it. Yeah. Like, if you go back and watch it, there's nothing in that fucking can. Yeah, there's no way.
I was gonna...
It's also, there's no way they would actually have a drink, something like that before a match. They just wouldn't.
Yeah. I was gonna get to that the one thing that was really that just made me shake my head was that entrance. That entrance is so weird. Yeah, I feel like they can get away with it better with the Slim Jim thing, because Slim Jim has a long-standing history with the company, and the ads were actually quite good with LA Knight.
The Slim Jim ad was really good. It was very funny.
Yeah, and I love how again
it was actually quite a nice ad, because it referenced Macho Man's in old ads with Slim Jims. It had Bianca Belair and LA Knight. I actually thought that was actually a really fun ad, especially coming right after. It almost felt like he earned the right to be in the ad, even though they obviously would have already filmed it.
Yeah.
But I think LA Knight referenced that in the press conference, I believe.
He traveled back in time and did the ad after he won the match. That's what happened.
That's great. LA Knight's great.
But then after that, he said, actually, no, the real reason is, and he went kayfabe again, he said, I was in the ad, so it gave me more motivation to win the match, because how embarrassing would it be if I lost and I was in the ad?
Yeah.
But yeah, I also noticed that Bianca Belair seems to be their cash cow when it comes to product placement ads, because she's in everything.
She's very marketable. She is. Bianca Belair as a person and as a wrestler and just as a personality, she's very marketable because she is the babyface. She is the she's a great wrestler, person of color, in this modern era. She's great for that, and I think she does it really well, and she absolutely should be. But they does seem to be a little bit more of they're trying to hone it in a bit more like in the entrance. I don't like. Yeah. I think she's the perfect person for it. Yeah.
The C4 can in the entrance. That was where it just went too far. It went way too far to the point of ridiculousness. It's like
it was just like
I can't remember the last time I've seen brand integration be that level where it like takes me out of what I'm watching. Like imagine if like Full Gear 2021 Hangman Adam Page's entrance came out with a Bud Light can. It would just ruin the story, wouldn't it? Because you're invested in seeing him, challenge for the title after all these years, and then here he comes out with some stupid fucking sponsorship beer. It just wouldn't feel right, would it? It would just be so bizarre. As per usual, WWE's product placement is really irritating, but I will say the Slim Jim stuff was good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah.
I think compared to other pay-per-views, I don't think this is the worst product placement stuff. I think there's been much worse elsewhere.
I think the Dom Ray match was pretty bad. That was pretty bad early in the year.
That fucking Pizza Hut match at Survivor Series was with
2021.
That was the one with Vince and the Golden Egg, right? That show?
Yeah, 2021, I believe.
Yeah, no, and it was about 25 years of The Rock, and he wasn't even at the show.
No, it wasn't at the show.
No, that was horrendous.
That was bad. That's certainly, other than the Bianca moment, there have been certainly worse product placements within programming.
Mountain Dew Pitch Black match at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah,
that's really
like they
bad.
didn't have. It's like, other than obviously they had the Slim Jim Battle Royal, but that I feel like that's more because it's a Battle Royal and sort of how Battle Royals are sort of seen. That's like not as shoehorned in. I don't think it's great, but like comparison to like a night between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight.
Yeah,
and there was no they had I think Dan Layton from Wrestle Talk actually pointing this out, and it's something that I actually really wish they did more, is because they now have the electric barricades around the ring, they should really make it more like sporting events when you watch it on television and they have ads constantly playing on the electric boards.
Well, that's what they
because
did
in the Premier League here in England.
That's what they did in the women's title match, was they had the C4 ads around the barricades and stuff.
Well, they also did that for the Gunther Drew McIntyre match, but and I agree with Dan on this. My issue with that is that it's literally just a still image on it, and it's not like rolling like adverts or even just an animation. It's stuff like that to make it more of a sporting like event. That would be something that I think would be beneficial to make it feel a bit more natural. It being rolling adverts of, what they're presenting. Yeah. Like to make it a bit more like, the Premier League here in England, that's what they do at sporting events. There's constant ads running around whenever you watch a game on TV.
I always loved it when
that would be something think they should do.
I always loved it when Brock Lesnar first came back, he had the Jimmy John sandwich logo on his pants. For a while.
Yes, he did, yeah.
Because he had all these
well, like an MMA fighter, like an MMA fighter does have on their top, they have their sponsors. So it's a bit even just that. That's something that I would be more into, in how some wrestlers present themselves.
Yeah,
if that's what you have sponsors.
If Bianca Belair had C4 logos on her attire, that would be fine. But the fact that she came out with the can and drank it, that's what...
Yeah. And there would be some people like, they're just slapping it onto the attire. But I feel like you can have attires that are more incorporated with the sponsor, and that would work, and you could get some cool gear out of it. There's definitely more and better ways, I think, they could execute these sponsors.
Yeah.
I think.
It's a shame that CM Punk is probably never going to get a deal with Coca-Cola because he's had Pepsi on his arm for ages.
Yeah.
Yep. Right, but yeah. And they didn't... Oh, and one thing I will say is thank fucking God they didn't have a live performance from Kid Rock, because I would have really, really been annoyed if they did that.
Instead, thank God.
Instead, they just had him in the opening video package, and for some reason they chose a few SummerSlams to reference, and for some reason they chose 1995, which is often cited as one of the worst SummerSlams. I don't know why they chose that one. To be fair,
I'm surprised they didn't show Wembley.
Yeah, I'm surprised. They understandably, I think they only showed clips from the one good match on that show, which was Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels, because they certainly weren't going to show clips from fucking King Mabel versus Diesel, and they certainly want to show clips from bloody Bret Hart versus the Dentist, fucking Isaac Yankem, when Kane was playing a dentist, and whatever else rubbish stuff that was on that show. But yeah, they had Kid Rock do that instead of a performance, which was a good idea, because this show was long and didn't need him on it. And once again, like they have been doing for a lot of the premium live events, Triple H loves to do the sort of classic angular walkway without a huge stage blocking fans, so he can pack more people into the building. I do like that presentation. For some reason, it didn't, despite being in a stadium and rather than an arena, it didn't come across as spectacle as Money in the Bank did. I think the setup in the O2 just works better for the camera angles than it does in this place, in Ford Field. And I also have to say that something about the lighting of this show just was really dark in the crowd. It was really strangely, almost looked like a big void. I'm not sure. It might be because they were trying to go for the aesthetic.
I'd probably say so.
Yeah. I feel like it was, despite the fact that this was in a huge stadium, it didn't feel like a huge stadium at times. Because of the lack of noise and the sort of, the way it was set up, it just felt really, I don't know, I feel like there's been way more impressive looking presentations for a stadium show than this, for sure. But yeah, that's the dressing out the way. I suppose, should we start reviewing the actual matches?
I guess we should.
The actual matches themselves. So we start off with the match that the WWE desperately wanted to go viral. And that is Logan Paul versus Ricochet. I have been described as they did a whole bunch of spots and then Logan Paul punched Ricochet with the brass knuckles in one. I thought it was a fun opener. I don't think it doesn't have a particularly in-depth story. The sort of the story of the match was, your fiance is going to say my name. And that's all it was, really.
Yeah, this last week they sort of now changed it from it being more viral to it being more about being a bit more personal. They've sort of dropped the whole viral moment thing, because this match certainly wasn't built around being viral, really. It was a lot of really interesting spots. This match weirdly took a while to get going, and it wasn't until I feel like they tried to, like, I don't know if it was the Spanish fly to the outside or it was the grab Logan's moonsault from the corner, and then getting hit with a tornado DDT. But from there, it was from those moments as well, I think that the match actually picked up.
Yeah, the moment that I remember the most from the match was the avalanche neckbreaker off the top rope.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good spot. I thought this match was fine. I think Ricochet and Logan are great. I think they're really good in the ring. I think there were a couple times where maybe Logan, I think this is probably the most nervous seemingly Logan has been, because you could tell from the start there was a lot of hesitation. You could tell it was quite rehearsed. But I think as the match went on, I think they became a bit more comfortable, and they eventually, kicked it up a gear. So I thought this match was perfectly fine.
I get the feeling that Logan Paul is starting to feel the pressure, especially since at the last pay-per-view there was an actual botch. and now he understands what it's like to not get it right.
Possibly, yeah.
I did notice that Logan Paul did the Hulk Hogan leg drop in this match.
He did.
But he did the splits.
Yeah, he did splits instead because he's athletic.
It makes me think, has he been watching Collision? Because CM Punk did that as well on the same night.
But that would have been at the same time, wouldn't it? Because they were being broadcast at the same time.
Well, no, but he's been doing it for the last, month or so. It's very strange.
I don't think you'll catch Logan watching AEW. To be quite honest,
he barely knows what. Maybe it's people telling him to do that, but because he barely knows what it is. Like when he had
it probably
Cody,
was just a reference to Hogan. Yeah.
When he had Cody on his podcast, he's just like, "What is this All Elite thing that everyone talks about?"
Yeah.
But the fact that he's not only done the Hogan leg drop that CM Punk's been doing, but he also does the buckshot lariat as well. It's possible that maybe on social media he sees these GIFs and he's like, "Oh, that looks cool. I should do that." It's possible.
Possibly, that's probably the extent of it, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I don't think Logan Paul has time to watch anything.
Yeah, because then he hit. I believe he hit the buckshot lariat to the outside.
Yeah, he did. Except it looked more like an STO than a clothesline, though.
Yeah, so I think the match was really good, and then they had the finish B, Logan Paul's personal manager, give him some brass ring, or what the fuck do they call it?
Brass knucks.
Is it called brass ring? Brass knucks, that's it. No, brass ring is what you try to grab, you never do. And he hits him with the punch, the lucky punch, which apparently he has metal shit in his arm. I don't know if that's actually for shoot or not. It might be. And then he wins. He punches Ricochet and he wins. And then Samantha has to say that Logan won. And I don't know if you've seen the clip of her. They actually filmed her doing it, and she actually gave a good performance. She was actually pretty emotion. A lot of emotion on her face.
Yes, Samantha Irvin's great. She's one of the better announcers in wrestling.
Yeah, she's great. So yeah, I thought this. I think. Here's the thing with that finish. I don't think they're going to continue this feud. Yeah. I feel like this is a one and done. If it turns out on Monday they are going to continue feuding, then I'm like, you know what? I actually would be down for another match, and it'd be a bit more, story driven, instead of trying to be a viral moment. Yeah, but I don't think they are.
Yeah, but it's Logan Paul, though. You're probably not going to see him until Crown Jewel, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't think so. But if they were going to have another match, because I think they can definitely kick it up a gear.
Imagine if they had Logan Paul in a War Games match.
That is not out of the realms of possibility, honestly.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. Just put him in all the most dangerous stipulations and see if this guy can survive.
They'll probably have him at the Chamber next year, honestly.
Oh my god.
That's something they probably will do.
One thing I just beg is never put him in the ring with Shane McMahon, because someone will die.
Yeah. I imagine Logan's going to try and go... I would imagine by the end of the year, or next year, he will have a world title shot.
Well, he already had one. He did already have one against Roman Reigns, but he lost.
Yeah, but, the world title. And that seems a bit more realistic of him winning, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite possible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought this match was fun.
It was a good opener. I think if it had been later in the show, I think it wouldn't have worked as well as it did. It needed to be at the start of the show for it to actually. Well, yeah.
Plus Logan needed to get to the Jake Paul Nate Diaz fight in time, which he did, and he was still in gear, which was funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I thought it was fine. Thought it was a fun opener. I don't have much more praise or critiques for that.
It's just like how when CM Punk had that handicap match against The Shield and then he had to go to his friend's wedding later that night. Anyway. Yeah, it served its purpose, for sure. And as we predicted, Logan Paul won because he hasn't won a match in a year, so he needed to win something.
Mm-hmm.
I think, honestly, I think we're at the point now where I personally don't think that Logan Paul being booked as a pay-per-view attraction is necessary.
No, not really.
Maybe he doesn't want to do more matches than he does, but I feel like there is room to have Logan Paul have a match on TV at some point.
Yeah, possibly. I doubt they're gonna do it though.
Yeah, I don't think he would care enough to do that.
Probably not.
Then we got to the second match, which WWE loves to do this. They love to say all these stupid things. The thing that the commentators said reminded me of the CM Punk Colt Cabana podcast when he was saying, "No, I wasn't in the main event of WrestleMania," and Vince's like, "Yeah, there's 4 main events, and you were in one of them." They were all going on about it. Oh, this SummerSlam has 4 main events. It's so unnecessary. I don't care.
Not only that, but this match had one of the most stupidest promo packages ever.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna just fucking say it.
They're like
so fucking over dramatic over a feud we don't know why it even happened in the first place.
So the way to describe the video package for Cody versus Brock would be romantic. It's very romantic. It's like something out of a...
Why? You should have just had Cody fucking win at Mania and this be for the title, and this would be so much fucking better. Sake.
And how they're calling it like a
Imagine this match. Imagine this match was for the title. This promo would actually be so fucking good. This would be a really fucking good promo package. Because it's like...
Remember how they're calling it a saga? It's so pretentious.
Yeah, it's so shit because, like, their matches haven't been bad, but the story's been, like, the same thing for 3 fucking months. Brock fucking attacks Cody. The next week, Cody cuts a promo. The next week, Brock returns, he attacks him, and they brawl. The next week, Cody cuts a promo. Then they have the match. And then they repeat that for another 2 months. It's this. I think this last month especially has been bad in terms of the actual story that they're not telling. Like, Cody has done 2 promos since the last pay-per-view on Brock, which he says the same thing. And then the other 2 weeks of Raw, they fucking just brawled like they always did. The most interesting this got is like when Brock came back after Money in the Bank. Like, why fucking... And even if it wasn't for the fucking title, why didn't Brock come out and cost Cody the match against Dom? How fucking great would that be? Playing into the fact that Dom then fucking won the North American title. How fucking great would this all work? I'm annoyed. I'm really annoyed by this. This really pissed me off.
Yeah, it's been a really stupid feud. And this is part of the this is part of the issue with doing heel Brock Lesnar without Paul Heyman, is that you don't have that link between them to make it work.
Well, no, but even then, just have Brock explain why he attacked him. It's not that fucking hard.
Yeah, well, I would imagine They
don't have a reason. They don't have a reason because they changed their plans and Cody isn't the world champion right now.
Yeah. And also,
because imagine on Raw, Cody is the champion. They set up the tag thing anyway. You can still fucking do that because who fucking cares? And you have Brock attack Cody. And the reason why is because, you're now the champion. I can challenge for that again. Give me that fucking belt.
Also, imagine if this was Cody winning back the belt after losing it in this match, the way it was booked.
Yeah. It would depend how they book him losing the title, because it would feel a bit too soon. I don't know. But I would say they definitely should have waited to do the match here for the title at SummerSlam. Like, imagine Cody's trying... way I would have done it, Cody's trying to have feuds with, like, Seth. Dom, last pay-per-view would have been good for the title, because you can just have Cody win, and that's fine. If you want to have Cody beat Dom at Money in the Bank, I feel like that could have been good. And constantly throughout these feuds, Brock comes back and attacks Cody and demands a match.
Yep, and also, how many title defenses has Roman Reigns had since WrestleMania? 0.
None. This is the first. This show was the first since Mania. So, like, it all and this is why my problem lies a little bit, where people are like, oh, but the Bloodline, that they turned it around with the Bloodline story. It's like, yes, in a sense, because the context of the characters was still very good. The issue has always been Cody just should have won. He should have won.
Yep.
Because you didn't need the title for the match with Roman and Jay. You didn't. You didn't need it.
There's two sides to this, because it's not just the Bloodline. Cody has his own story
we'll get to the main event later, and that would have helped. The fact that it wasn't for the title probably would have helped the fact with a certain heel turn. It probably would have given it more leniency.
Because people gotta remember that the WrestleMania main event is not just about the Bloodline. That's only half the story. The other half of the story is Cody Rhodes' return to WWE.
Cody, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that is suffering as a result of not having the world title on it. The WWE title, I should say. Because the world title is a different one.
And if you want to still do how this match was done, because ignoring all the problems, this match was great. It was really good.
Oh, I really fucking like this match.
Yeah. You can have this match be for the title and it be a last man standing match, so you can still do the fucking all the stuff they did with Cody coming back into the ring. You just replace that with last man standing match rules, and it would be great. It'd be so fucking good if this was for the title.
Yep.
Yep.
So it's with all that malarkey out of the way, this was actually a really, really bloody good match.
Yeah, this was great.
So
this match was really great. It was by far their best match.
Yeah, and I've the way I would describe Cody in the way that his babyface character is portrayed is this, to me, is what Vince always wanted to do with Cena, but it actually works. It actually works with Cody because there's an actual believable there's actual believable adversity to it.
This match, and a lot of people have said it. I remember listening to the Wrestle Talk reactions. A lot of people saying this was almost the equivalent to the John Cena Brock Lesnar match at SummerSlam 2014.
Very similar, yeah.
But the difference is this is the victim actually overcoming that and winning, and this was believable. It actually made sense and it worked well in the story. The only issue I had with the finish was the free. I'm kind of getting sick of the free crossroads finish. I'm kind of getting sick of that because it's kind of becoming a bit like overkill. Just have him kick out of one crossroads like halfway through the match. Cody is like doing the same thing. He sneaks in a crossroads. Brock kicks out at 2.5. And then you have one more crossroads at the end of the match. I mean, the free crossroads means it's becoming a bit overkill.
I guess the issue is that the WWE don't let him do the Tiger Driver like he did in AEW. He used to do this Tiger Driver move to win big matches. Like when he won his big match with Malachi Black, he used the Tiger Driver, and they won't let him do that move.
I would just still have to do it's a different company, it's a different opponent. You can just do the crossroads once or twice. You don't need to do it 3 in a row. That's becoming way too fucking overkill for me. Because he's done it a couple times, and that's the one thing about this match that I'm like, and about the finish in general, was like, it bugs me because it's like, I want finishers, a one and done finisher is still can be great. Doing 3 in a row just kind of it doesn't undermine it. It just devalues it a little bit for me. You know, I get it's Brock, but you can have him have him hit 1, he kicks out, hit 2, that's the finish.
Yep. Yeah.
Other than that, this match was great. This match was really good.
I loved it. I genuinely love this match. Brock was
great in this. Brock was great in this.
I've always been a big fan of the main event run Cody Rhodes matches, but this was real good. This was really good.
This was like, I think this is Cody. Is it Cody's best match since he's been back? Probably not. The Hell in a Cell one is probably like for the real life element attached to it. And
had it not been for the very end, I would say the match with Roman was the best one. But the last minute, the last 60 seconds of it.
Yeah. Because the Cody Rhodes format mixed with the Roman format actually is probably a really good blend. It's a really good blend of like how they do their style of matches. And it's the same here. I feel like this easily is probably one of Brock's best matches in a long while.
Yeah. So the best Cody Rhodes match is still the match he had with Dustin in 2019. That match is perfect. Told a perfect story. I'm sure he could get there again.
Since Cody's return, this is his second best match, I think, of his run, I'd say. Because it is exactly what his character is. It's John Cena that makes sense. It's a John Cena character, but he actually makes sense. He's not he's not a stupid bully. He's not like, he can be cringe at times, but that's because of the drama part of it, at times. And he is quite, sometimes Cody is quite memeable. Like Roman, he's quite memeable at times. But in terms of the actual story that was told here, it was perfect for Cody, perfect for Brock, and I feel like naturally this was a well built up match from the start. I feel like this was also really well done.
The other thing is that I always found a lot of Cena's babyface character, especially when he was in his main event run, to be really phony and not genuine. It just felt so forced. Whereas Cody feels genuine. This feels like the actual guy.
Yeah. I feel, especially during the build up to the Mania match this year, I feel like that really came into fruition.
And there's definitely, I feel like there's definitely a lot of the way that Cody is portrayed in this role is definitely heavily inspired from the baby faces from the 80s and NWA, because they were booked like this against the big monsters.
Like when Brock fucking just picks him up and like deadlifts him and just throws him over his shoulder like he's nothing. That's so great. That's so great.
Yeah, I also,
these matches are delight. Yeah.
It might be because of Cody's sort of body type, but the way the suplexes look so much more dangerous because he's got such an awkward way of landing. It doesn't look like a
Cody's a really good seller.
It doesn't look like a rehearsed performance center bump. This looks like he was.
Cody's This Cody's looks like he was really good at selling. He's really good at selling.
Like, I think he genuinely goes out of his way to make the bumps look more awkward, so it's immersive. Because it actually looks like
his body also seemingly because obviously he gets a lot of scarring, a lot of bruises during his matches. Seemingly, it just makes it look, you get the visual aid of it looking a lot more real than just the moves themselves.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely insane. He takes
Cody's very committed to
not only does he take
a lot of pain during matches.
Yeah, well, fucking he went through a flaming table in AEW and he still got booed. But he takes a lot of punishment and he's a hell of an athlete. He's a hell of an athlete. That's the other thing that I think works better with Cody than with Cena, is I think he's a much better wrestler. They obviously have different styles, and obviously Cody's not as much of a weightlifter as Cena is, because John Cena can lift heavier guys than Cody can. But in terms of just as an in-ring worker and as an athlete, Cody, especially with the modern style, he just works so much better, especially in the babyface role. Like that top rope Cody cutter was absolutely awesome, and the way that Brock took it.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, but I think my favorite part of this match, and this honestly might have been my most engaged and wowed I was by this show, was the constant on the outside Brock basically punishing Cody and standing in the ring waiting for the count, and then he just keeps running back in.
Telling him to stay down. It's like, it's only going to get worse. Brock was great during all.
And the way
that was so good.
This is actually, and is rare for me to praise Michael Cole, but his commentary in this match was awesome. The way he was saying, "Just stay down, Cody. Just stay down."
Yeah.
The only thing that he didn't say that I was thinking he could have added is just like, you've got a wife and child to look after. You don't want to compromise that. You know, they could have added that on top as well if they wanted.
Or you could have referenced the fact that his mum is there.
Yep.
You know, they do. But Cole, like, saying to Cody, is like, Cody, your mum's here. She doesn't want to see you like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just stay down. It's fine. There's no like, no one's gonna think any less of you. I don't know if he did say any less of you, but stuff like that. And one thing I want Cole to do at some point during these kind of matches is actually go to them and actually put an arm around them, because I feel like that little thing would, like, because Cole is now going to be on more shows now. I want Cole to have those sort of moments, not too often, but those sort of moments where he is actually like a person. And I feel like this sort of run he's had in the last sort of year or so, since, like, you know, he has gone a lot better. And since Vince has been out of his ear, he does feel like more of an actual person. So those kind of moments I want more of to make him like an actual character.
That's something they do with Tony Schiavone and Taz, is they have them get off the desk and they get involved in whatever's going on.
Yeah. But yeah, this match was, I feel like, perfectly built. A really well told story. The performance was great. The match itself was really fun and like exactly what it needed to be. Like, again, only issue I had was the free crossroads, because I just feel like personally that's overkill. And I feel like that needs to die. The finisher spamming before you pin them, I feel that's a trope that needs to go because it's overkill. Yeah.
But I would say this is like a 4 or a 4.5 star match overall.
Oh yeah, I think it's like 4.5 star. I think it's like 4.5. Yeah, it's like a 9. This is a 9 out of 10 match for me.
Like, it needs to be. They need to smooth out some of those edges, but for the bulk of it, they told a great story. And I fucking loved after the match when Brock took off his gloves and shook Cody's hand, gave him a hug, and raised his hand.
Imagine, and again, those are the sort of moments. But imagine this was for the title. The story was built better, and like Brock's character was like quite interesting in terms of like he ever since he lost the title, he's had this urging need to win it back, but he wasn't allowed to. Like, that would have been really fucking cool, I think. And also, the match itself, 9 out of 10. The story overall, it's like a 6 or 7, honestly. Probably more a 6.
Yeah, because the TV stuff is crap.
But the matches were always decent, and this match was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I fucking loved. Was it the Backlash match where Cody was in the Kimura covered in blood and then he rolled him over into the pin? That was really well done.
Yeah, that was good. I think the execution of that could have been better. I remember the time, but the idea of him just escaping and then he would then lose the next match, which he did, which I thought was a decent match, not great, but yeah, I feel the matches have all been, at the very least, decent. This match, which was great.
This was the best one.
The story was by far this is the best one. The story, unfortunately, has just been a bit piss throughout the whole feud.
Yeah, and also the fact that Brock doesn't really do that sort of thing at the end of matches where he embraces the person and raises their hand. Yeah,
he clearly respects Cody a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Which I think you could have. I think throughout the feud you could tell because of how much like effort he's putting into this feud. You know, like the material he's been given isn't great because he hasn't been given any motivation in story of why he's doing it. But I think Brock has been, in terms of a performer, been great throughout the feud. I would definitely say.
Absolutely,
and he is great. He's always a
just
great
not in terms of not in terms of attendance, but in terms of his appearances.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, this match, great. I am really interested to see what both of them do next, honestly.
Yeah, I am too.
Because before Brock came back after the Money in the Bank, Cody was going to go for the world title. So I'm now interested to see if he does go for the title now, Cody, and try to win it.
Well,
but
I would imagine from now until the rest of the year, I think Cody's probably going to feud with the Judgment Day. That's my guess.
He could, but I think, and we'll get to the Judgment Day a bit later because I'm very interested to talk about that. I think there's going to be Finn is soon going to be turned on by Judgment Day, but we'll get to that later. So I'm really interested in what they do with Cody next, and if Brock does stick around for a bit and see what he does.
Yeah, we could actually get that Cody Brock tag team that was teased.
They could actually do that. They could actually do that.
And actually,
then there's gonna always
from an in-ring perspective, it would be an interesting combination. Brock Lesnar in a tag team match is something that you never really see.
Mm-hmm.
He's never really been a tag team wrestler. He's always been a singles guy.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. This might be my match of the night. I'm not sure. It might be, but it's definitely.
I think it's up there.
It's one of them. Sure. It's one of them. I like you said. I think if the finish had been handled a little bit smoother, then maybe it would be.
I've got two other matches that I prefer. I'd say,
and also, as you said, the feud leading up to it and the video package did kind of make things a bit ugh.
Yeah, like if I was going to feud overall out of 10, it'd probably be a 5.
Yeah. But it was a great match.
Yeah. Great match.
Yeah, I love Cody Rhodes, and especially since he's come back, especially since he's come back to WWE, he's really found his sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was always an uphill battle in AEW, especially since the pandemic for him. But now he's really found his groove, and he's so good.
Yeah.
He's, as we said, he is the thing that WWE always wanted John Cena to be. That babyface character is what Cody is, and it's believable. And he's an incredible athlete. He knows how to take a punishment. He knows how to tell a story. His promos are genuine and so full of passion. But then he's also quite funny too. Like he's always the best part of the press conferences because he just goes out there and just completely steals the show.
He's fucking hilarious.
The way he like plays around with the product placement each time. He tastes all the drinks and eats the chocolate and all that.
I think Cody is more self-aware than people give him credit for. I think at times.
Yeah. I think he realizes that he's a bit of a cringe boomer, but he embraces it.
He does. I think he's a boomer that actually embraces it. He's one of those rare people who actually embraces their boomer like vibes.
Yeah, even though he's like he's not even 40 yet.
No, he's still pretty like young compared to a lot of the roster, to be honest.
Yeah,
like he's younger than Damian Priest.
Well, funny thing. He debuted on Raw the night after the WrestleMania that was at Ford Field in Detroit.
Yeah, he's been around for a long time.
April 2007, and he was 21 years old.
Crazy.
Yep. Anyway.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Slim Jim.
Yeah, slip it to him, Slim Jim. Yeah,
I think LA Knight's a great choice for this product placement specifically fits with him because he has that charisma.
I want him to come out with Slim Jim and absolutely put Slim Jim over and absolutely bury his opponents for the next month. Yeah. I think that'd be fucking fun. That'd be so fun.
For ages, I've always thought, the thing with Slim Jim is you'll never get anyone as good as Randy Savage. And with LA Knight, he actually has the ability to do his own thing with Slim Jim that would be believable.
Exactly, because he is just as charismatic. Here's the thing, right? And here's the thing. I absolutely wanted Trish and Becky to be on this show, and they should have been on the show. I definitely agree, because I think their feud has actually been really well built, and it's been them being on a marquee match on SummerSlam. They should, and I would not remove this though, because I think the potential of this. I actually thought the Battle Royal was actually pretty fun in all. I actually had a good time with it,
especially the second half. The second half was really picked up.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's what I don't like about a lot of things I've seen on Twitter about it. It's like I absolutely think Trish and Becky are absolutely entitled to be annoyed they're wrestlers. They want to be on the show. They want to have matches. They want to. Their feud has been really good. Of course, they'd be pissed off if their match is on it. That's absolutely fine. I think what I don't like people's reaction to it is the fact that it's like, oh, I think I saw a tweet like, oh, the WWE giving priority to the men, in the main event, giving them all the time, but then the women don't get on to be on the show. It's like, that's not why that's not the reason. That's not why. It's like the main event has been one of the best built stories in WWE for the last 10 years.
My clarification on that is that it's not a men versus women thing. My issue with it is that Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus are two of the biggest stars and should be on the show.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's why. It's not because they're women. They're like two of the best women's wrestlers in the company, pretty much, arguably. Yeah. But they're fucking up there. They're great. They're promos. They're great wrestlers. Yes, I absolutely agree. They should have been on the show, but it's like I don't think I'm not in the favor of they should be replacing the fucking main event. I know that's not what people are saying, but they needed to do better at figuring out a way to get them on the show. That's what they should have done. But it's not because they're women. It's not them giving preference to men. Because I don't think Trips is giving so much more preference to men instead of the women wrestlers. There was a triple threat on this show that was actually very presented, with a bunch of big sponsors and.
I think in terms of bookers that don't prioritize women's wrestling, Triple H is not the one to go after. He has done a lot of great work for women's wrestling over the years.
What I'd say is that he's booked a lot of women wrestling content on WWE, way more than AEW this past year. But the booking has been really piss for the most part, and that's the issue. That's more the issue. On Raw, I think the women's wrestling on Raw gets a decent amount of.
The only thing that he doesn't do a lot of is he doesn't do a lot of in-ring stuff with them. He does a lot of promos, but I don't think, and I'm just gonna clarify, I don't think that's an issue specifically with women's wrestling. I think that's just across the board. I think the TV shows, especially Raw and SmackDown, they just don't have enough wrestling on them. They're more of a promo heavy show.
They are, because week to week they are very promo heavy.
Yeah.
Which I don't mind that. I just feel like the content should mostly be better around women's stories.
Yeah. They should be putting more effort into crafting the actual quality of the stories. It doesn't. You don't necessarily need to have more action. It's just the writing is a bit lazy.
They gave the women's triple threat 32 minutes. They gave it over half an hour,
including entrances. Yeah,
that was the second longest match on the show. It only beat out. Yeah, I believe it was anyway.
Well, yeah, it was. The bell to bell it was 21 minutes, and it was the second longest on the show. Yeah.
All right, but in terms of the whole segment, it was over half an hour.
Yeah, it was still the second longest match on the show, though. It was.
Yeah. And that's a story that is way weaker than Becky Trish, but they gave it time. I don't think we'll get to the match later, but I don't think the match was great. But they gave it time. I think they gave it the right amount of time.
Yeah,
for sure.
Anyway, so let's talk about what we actually did get though. So this battle royal was interesting. The first half with WWE battle royals, when they've got a lot of people in the ring, it is hard to tell stories when it's as packed as it is. It's a bit of chaos.
Yeah.
But once things start to clear, is when you start to actually see the parts of it that are interesting. And this is, for me, this is why the Royal Rumble is always better than a battle royal, because you don't have the problem of it being overly packed at the start.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But in the second half of this match, they started to pair feuds off together, and that's when things got really fun.
I think this is one of the better battle royals I've had in a long fucking time.
Yeah.
Because there was a bunch of wrestlers actually got chances to shine. Like Chad Gable was really well presented. Thought Styles had a lot of thing goes for him. I even thought like Karrion Kross even had some stuff to do.
Yep.
You know, which is
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure the last time he appeared on pay-per-view was at the Royal Rumble. It was that long ago.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Waller and Miz actually had like some decent, fun stuff in there as well. And I think it should fucking be a tag team because fucking like
I liked that.
It's pretty much the Spider-Man meme. They're pretty much very similar.
It was a Spider-Man meme, but the thing is, they're on different brands at the moment. That's probably why.
They are, but fucking, you can literally just say we're gonna do a trade. You can just do that. That's fine, and we'll believe it. It's not that hard.
Yeah, and actually, this is one of the cool things about doing a brand split. Is you get a match like this where people that haven't seen each other in a long time, they re-interact, and you had a bunch of like in a matter of actions linking together. You had a bunch of feuds crossing over, and sort of like linking up together, which was real interesting. Everything they did with Sheamus and the way that he interacted with all the different feuds going on was real interesting.
Sheamus was great in this.
Yeah, he's one of the Sheamus is one of the MVPs of this battle royal for sure.
He was. Well, Knight and Sheamus, I would say, were the best performers in this match.
And this is actually to give a bit of praise to some of the booking on SmackDown. They started to tease that since the leg injury that they were going to transition Styles away from Karrion Kross onto Sheamus, but then they diverted it, and then in this match, Kross eliminated him and says, yes, I'm not done with you yet, don't you worry. So I imagine hopefully they pay off that feud at a pay-per-view and not just on TV. Like, I'd like to see all their matches have been like
Kross. The booking of Kross is really good, and they just need a booking better. They just do. Like, Kross has got so much potential.
I mean, most of their matches have only been like 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Just give them like time. You can like those first couple weeks of Kross were like and he got cheered and like he got a reaction at Clash of the Castle, and they haven't continued that. I don't know why they haven't. Like, I don't think the Drew match was booked well either. Like, there was some weird spooky shit that they tried to do when really it should be really like Kross is a really good promo. He's a really good promo. That's what you should be focused, not on like fucking stupid fireball shit. It's like, fucking come on.
It doesn't make sense to me because it's the same head of creative as well. Because in NXT, his run was really well booked outside of the injury, which was outside of their control.
Yeah.
When he had his feuds with like Finn Balor, for example, he was really, really good at that. And then he had his feud with Keith Lee, and he had his feud where they were teasing he was gonna the way that Scarlett put the hourglass to Adam Cole when he had the belt. And that was just before he lost the belt to Keith Lee. It was so good. And then they were going to eventually get to a match with Kyle O'Reilly, but then NXT 2.0 happened, and that ruined everything. And then Vince put him in a gimp mask. Which, fuck that.
Yeah.
But
there was actually a really cool... There was actually a really cool spot in this with Ciampa where he DDT'd Nakamura, who had already been over the top rope, and that's how he eliminated him. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think Ciampa should have probably got a bit more of a showing. That's one thing I noticed that I'm like, he probably should have had a better showing. Ciampa. Other than that, I thought that was pretty fun, and I think Knight. What I like about Knight lately is ever since Nash fucking had those like, he's just like fucking other wrestlers, whatever he says specifically. Knight has been doing a lot more of and I feel like that's on purpose, to be honest.
Yeah.
But fucking the place went wild when Knight won. Fucking went crazy. And they also did the spot they did on the SmackDown, but actually did it, so they did it a lot better. It was great. That was pretty fun. Yeah, and I'm this was pretty fun.
And again, I'm actually looking forward to seeing if they keep doing ads with LA Knight with Slim Jim, because he's a good person to have on those ads.
Absolutely, he should be. He absolutely should be.
Yeah, just hope that they don't have him continue to feud with Hit Row. That's all.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Fucking goddamn it! Have him win the US title. Do it. Actually give that
Yeah,
belt some meaning.
they have to do something with him now. They can't, because if they don't, oh boy, the backlash is going to be fucking massive if they don't.
Yep.
And I feel like they are going to, because if they're putting him in ads with like Bianca Belair in like Slim Jim, you know, I feel like they are probably going to at some point.
Well, I mean, his merch sales are ridiculous.
Yeah. They are. They have to at some point. They can't just ignore it now. But you know what's also funny? Fucking Austin Theory was in this match too.
Yep, the United States champion.
And no one cared. And no one fucking cared. Fucking get the belt off him. He needs to be rebranded badly.
Yep. He beat John Cena clean at WrestleMania. Remember that?
And no one cares.
No one cared.
Because they buried the fuck out of him for no reason. And now they've booked him like shit ever since.
Yeah, which is actually... It's partly John Cena's fault, because he buried him and then he lost to him.
Yeah. I don't know why they made him cut that promo. It's so strange. Because like, honestly, those are the kind of promos that Cena cuts that are like... They obviously want to like get like a lot of views on Twitter and get wrestling Twitter talking about that kind of stuff, because it's a bit more shooty, pew. Like, that's why they're trying to do a lot of recreations of the Roman Cena feud from 2017.
Here's the thing about that is that ever since CM Punk cut the pipe bomb, John Cena's been obsessed with work shoot promos.
Yeah, they've made him do a lot of those.
Like, because he started doing them when he was feuding with The Rock, and then that got a great reaction. So then he started doing them again and again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no. Austin Theory is just... He's just so in the mud. He's...
He's... I feel bad for him because he's not a bad wrestler at all, and he's not a bad promo, but they give him shit material.
I saw a clip of him online of someone like a kid meeting him in public, and he was actually really nice to him, and it was. Yeah,
he seems like a decent guy in real life. Like he had a lot of controversy like 2 years ago or so, but that seemingly has been cleared up. I'd hope so. But in real life, he seemingly is like, he could be a good babyface. Honestly, if you book him right, he absolutely can be.
Yeah, I think when
he desperately needs a rebrand. He really do.
When he eventually loses the United States Championship, I think he does need to transition babyface at some point.
He does. Yeah, he needs to. They need to. Honestly, they could put him in a tag team with someone, you know, and like they'd like have him rebuild himself. They could have something like that if they wanted to.
I mean, if they do a superstar shakeup at some point, he could do something with Gargano.
Yeah, they could, but I don't know if they're gonna reunite the way, because they've hardly been featured the last month, despite teasing it.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends if they want to involve it with Ciampa's stuff. I don't know. But yeah, no, LA Knight won. Finally, he won a pay-per-view match, as he should.
Thank God.
And he's massively over.
They got to do something with him, you know, going forward.
Yep. Real good. Okay.
Oh, you could have him like, you got to have him just be in a. He doesn't even have to go for a title. He just needs to be in a marquee match next pay-per-view.
Here's the thing with LA Knight. In terms of when you look at the main roster and you think about purely from an in-ring perspective, how do these people stack up? I actually think LA Knight is below average in the ring, but it doesn't matter. Because the reason why he's over is because people want to see him win. It's not about he does this move, that move, that move.
I probably wouldn't say he's below average, because I think he's had really good matches with Butch and Sheamus. He's had good matches these last couple months.
I'm not saying he's below average in terms of as an athlete. What I mean is that
compared to the top guys, yeah.
Compared to the fact that the roster is so loaded with athletes that are at that top level.
Mm-hmm.
LA Knight is not someone that I would say fits into the category of, oh, this guy has great matches all the time. But that doesn't matter, really, because, I mean, maybe if he was world champion, then it would matter, because then you'd have to be having 20, 30-minute pay-per-view matches, which I don't know if he's capable of that yet, if he will ever be. It remains to be seen. But at the same time, he is so charismatic. His promos are great. And he gets huge reactions. And even if he is limited, the stuff he does do looks good. For the most part. So I don't really... And this is one of the things that I see to sort of link it in. Is people always say... I always see people on Twitter say, oh, Karrion Kross is never going to get over because he's not like a Seth Rollins level wrestler. But I'm like, LA Knight is one of, if not the most over people in the whole company. And he's not a Seth Rollins level wrestler either. So I don't get that argument that people throw against certain people saying they're not over because they're not like a 5-star match machine, when there's so much more to this whole thing than just that. Especially in, you know, the sports entertainment fed. It's not just about having 5-star matches, it's also about who you are as a character, how convincing you are as a promo, what your storyline's like, what kind of reactions you get from a crowd as a person, you know, entrance. There's a lot that goes into it. In-ring charisma, you know, how you connect with the audience in the ring. I mean, that's the... There's a reason why Hulk Hogan was the top guy in the 80s and it wasn't, you know, Ricky Steamboat, and it wasn't, you know, Mr. Perfect, and it wasn't, it wasn't Tito Santana. It was Hulk Hogan because he could make that connection with the audience. Although, speaking of the 80s, Macho Man Randy Savage, I think. It's interesting because people compare LA Knight to Stone Cold and The Rock, but I would actually say, having seen that Slim Jim ad, he has similarities to Savage as well, and it's not because he's copying any of those people, it's because he has charisma. That's what's similar to him and those guys, is that he has that kind of charisma that reminds us of who are the most charismatic figures to be in the business. Randy Savage, The Rock, Steve Austin, to name a few. LA Knight has that kind of charisma, which is why he's so over. And the WWE audience loves that. So yeah. I hope Kevin Nash was watching this match and wincing in pain at LA Knight win. I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. Good stuff. Right. Now let's move on to... the match that should have been a Fight Pit match, but wasn't. It's Shayna Baszler.
Just any fucking match.
Yeah.
Any match would have been better.
Well, again, a Fight Pit match it replicates the atmosphere of the UFC, but it isn't an MMA fight. It's a WWE match. You know, Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle have won at Extreme Rules last year. And it wasn't an MMA match, it just happened to be in a cage that looked like an MMA cage.
Mm-hmm.
Infamously, with things like the Brawl for All and among other times that wrestling has tried to do MMA-inspired matches, it's not a recipe for success. Given the competitors, you'd think that it would be possible to maybe pull it off. However, the problem with this, there's actually a lot of issues with doing an MMA rules match like this. Number one, the booking. The booking has to be done in the way where it's telling a story in the way that the audience can understand. Because the problem is, when you do a match like this, in the way that they did it, the audience isn't going to respond. And obviously part of it is because the Detroit crowd was probably burnt out after the Battle Royal, and for the rest of the night they seem to have issues not being particularly engaged. But the thing is, a match like this, in the way that it's booked, doesn't actually... it's not designed for reactions, because everyone knows it's not a real fight. And secondly, not even an MMA fan could enjoy this, because it's not a real fight. It's so obviously not a real fight, because it's missing things like...
It's not even a good worked MMA fight. It's not even that.
No, because I don't know if that's actually possible. I don't know if a good worked MMA fight is possible.
But even then, what they've done, how they booked it, was it wouldn't even happen in MMA.
No.
Like this, like there are matches in MMA in UFC which are way more exciting than how they presented it here.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, you can absolutely. I feel like it's incredibly hard. I absolutely get it, but it's the way they do it. It's the way they do worked MMA that just does not fucking work.
Well, the
because
thing
of
is,
how they think it should go down.
well, one of the there's a few things that make the MMA fighting actually entertaining. Number one is it's the striking. This match can't do the kind of striking that MMA does. Well, unless they wanted to actually beat each other to a pulp, which I don't think they want to do. The closest thing you get to the kind of striking you see in MMA in a wrestling ring is probably in Japan. And even then, there's still a level of kayfabe to it. And also, it's the environment. Having an MMA match in a wrestling ring is just it's a weird combination. There's a reason why they have it in an octagon and in a cage. Is so that they can push themselves against the cage and like tackle them down against the side of it. That's one of the primary, especially in heavyweight MMA, one of the primary things that in terms of strategy that they use is the edge of the cage. But you can't do that in a wrestling ring because a wrestling ring has ropes and they can fall outside of it. So you can't do the actual force someone against the edge of the barrier and ground and pound. But you can't do the actual legit striking because otherwise you'd injure each other. And whilst they can make kayfabe MMA grappling and submission look real, it doesn't get a reaction from the audience, and it doesn't tell a story based on the actual story they're trying to tell. Because if you watch, this is kind of like the opposite of the Cody Brock thing, because the Cody Brock thing had a terrible video package and a great match. This was the reverse of that, where the video package that they did on Raw, and they did a cut down version of the pay-per-view, is really, really good at showing you what kind of story this is building to be. But the MMA style doesn't tell that story. It removes the fight element out of it, because this didn't feel like a blood feud match. This felt like, oh, who can out wrestle each other, which is the complete and polar opposite of what you want to do with a feud like this. And it just kind of ruins the point.
What they should have done is they should have recreated Conor McGregor versus fucking who's I can't remember the guy's name, but it ended in pretty much like 17 seconds. You have Shayna come out the gate, absolutely beating Ronda to a pulp, and have a win in like 20 seconds. And like absolutely annihilate her, like with knees and strikes. It's completely, and that would be, I feel like that would be get it in and out, done quick, and that puts Shayna over massively as a dominating force. And Ronda's fucking leaving anyway. She's going. You can absolutely just fucking do that. Why have a...
Literally have it built up as Ronda Rousey gets roundhouse kicked in the head and just falls flat in her face and is knocked out. It's like, why would you just do that? I would
have Shayna do like a running knee right in the face and then just keep absolutely going for it, like smashing her up, throwing her around, and that'd be it. And you do that in like 30 seconds, and I feel like that's probably the best way to go about it. You have Shayna, like, because if she is as pissed off as she is, you would have her absolutely just fucking go for her, and you have her win.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing submission and holds for like 10 minutes?
Yeah, no. This was not the match to do chain wrestling at all.
And they couldn't even make that exciting. There are times where doing that kind of stuff is like super exciting. Like they're like lifting up in the air and they slam to the ground and absolutely choke the shit out of them, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't want to see fucking Ron to just throw away some refs and officials.
This did not need to be...
And to gain heat.
This did not need to be 7.5 minutes.
No. Get in there, do it quickly, put Shayna over strong, like have absolutely maul Ronda.
And the fact that this was on the show and not Becky and Trish, that's the biggest beef I have with this show, is that Becky and Trish would have been so much better. So much better.
Literally, you didn't just cut this down, cut a little bit of the main event, and you can have a 10, 12 minute Becky Trish match easily.
Yep.
Ronda's fucking going anyway. She's leaving the company anyway. Ugh.
Indeed.
You didn't have this. This didn't need to be 7 minutes.
I mean, look, for what? And I have heard that apparently there was a lot of creative struggles with this match putting it together. Like a lot of people disagreed on how to handle it between the performers and the agents and the booking. They all had different ideas, and it was really difficult to put it together. But I mean, they definitely, you could tell that Shayna and Ronda were trying. They were trying to do something with it.
They tried. It's just like the execution of it all was really shit.
It's clear that these two women are really, really talented athletes. They know what they're doing. It's just, in terms of telling a story, a narrative within professional wrestling.
Ronda definitely can't tell a story in the ring, honestly.
Oh no,
I don't. No. She doesn't really have the talent. Really, we haven't really seen her ever tell a story in ring. She's had exciting matches in the ring, but like in terms of telling an actual story of her being this dominant athlete, she never really comes across as that. Even though she fucking is, in terms of how she does her matches, she's never telling that story or any sort of story that is presented to us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this was unfortunately. This was yeah, it was a bust for sure. And this was
awful. It's one of the worst matches I've ever had to watch. Honestly, I fucking hated it.
Yeah, which is weird though because it's somehow one of the best MMA WWE matches there's ever been, but the bar's just so low.
I don't know, man. This was awful. It was fucking awful.
Well, have you seen the Brawl for All from 1999? No. Well, there you go then. You haven't seen fucking Butterbean vs. Bart Gunn at WrestleMania. Jesus Christ. Vince Russo was on crack when he booked that shit. Again, they tried to do something, but it failed.
It was so heatless. This was such a heatless match.
Yeah, and
I was not convinced at all that they were fucking like blood feuding, because that's how the feud has been presented.
The crowd chanted boring at this match.
Because it was boring. It was fucking boring.
Yeah, and it sucks because they wasted a brilliant video package on this.
But here's the thing, right? It's boring because it's incredibly fucking. I've just got the clip of Germany going absolutely crazy for the end of the match. So I wouldn't be surprised that was for another match. Honestly, fucking hell. I don't know if you remember that they showed like an audience in Germany losing their shit after the match.
I think it's I honestly think that those things that they show aren't even. They're paid to do that.
Oh, they're paid to go and watch the shows. Like, they're fans, but they're paid to go and watch it. But, like, here's the thing, right? Yes, this was incredibly boring. I absolutely agree. But honestly, I don't like the take of that being boring is worse than being bad. I don't ever agree with that. The reason why is because this was also just incredibly shit. Everything about it was shit. It was boring, but it was also really fucking badly done. The execution was awful.
It was both and bad. Yeah.
If this was like a regular match, it wasn't MMA rules. If this was a regular like boring match, it'd be better than this.
Well, being
slightly more boring is like
It being boring is not what made it bad, but it was just an after effect of it being bad.
I'd rather watch a fight at the same length. I'd rather watch a boring Raw match. I'd rather watch like from 5 years ago. I'd rather watch that.
Well, the thing is with the MMA thing is there's no selling.
No.
So what the fuck?
You could have. There's no reason why you couldn't have done selling.
It's one of the. I mean, maybe in like the last 2 minutes there was some because they got a little bit heated at the last 2 minutes, but. It's that's really the secret sauce of wrestling is the selling. So there's no point to it if there's no selling because you're not making the moves actually mean something. And the reason why there's no selling in MMA is because it's real and you don't need to sell because you're actually getting beat the shit out of. Mm-hmm. You don't have to think of it.
Replicate. They just didn't replicate it well. Either, just from the booking itself.
They didn't think, could we put this in a fight pit? They didn't think about the rounds. They didn't think about anything. It was so lazy. They should have just had either a squash match or they should have had a wrestling match in a fight pit. Those are two much better options than what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame because these two could have had a much better match than they had. This wasn't a case of you had the wrong talent in the match. It's the case of you booked the match in a way where they can't tell the story properly. So yeah, what a shame. And it briefly kind of killed some of the momentum the show had as well, because the first 3 matches, you know, had some issues, but it was going on a good run up to that point. But yeah, no, what a shame. Lets the show down as a whole, I think, and also the exclusion of Becky vs. Trish in favor of this was a weird choice.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, please.
All right, so we actually get back to some good wrestling again with Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. Actually,
Yay!
This is what you're supposed to be doing for the Intercontinental Championship. Again, not a particularly complex story, but it is based on prior history, especially with the Mania match. I just thought this was a good, hard-hitting fight. It was just a real good wrestling match, you know? A good workman match.
I thought this was a really, 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 really great match.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And the way that it's like, I hit you hard and do my move, you kick out, so I hit you even harder and do an even bigger move and you still kick out. And then they sell the reactions. I think Gunther is he has a very simplistic style, but it's so effective and it's so consistent. It never seems to really fail.
Yeah, it's a brutalizing style.
Never really seems to fail. And what I think what's most impressive about Gunther is he's able to make the matches look so incredibly painful, but he never injures his opponents for real. And I love the finish when he did like the big,
pushing them off, then fucking just hits them with 3 big moves, and that's it.
Yeah, it's just it's like a steamroller. I would like to see it. I would actually. I mean, it is a bit of an issue in the sense of Gunther has to hold the IC title to beat Honky's reign, but I do think I would like to see these two have a rematch at some point, because I think they could do this again and step it up even further. I think there is potential for that. But yeah, I really like. I don't have a lot to say about this match overall, but I did really like it. I thought it was simple, straight to the point, well done, really hard hitting 13 minutes from 2 big boys.
Yeah, really good stuff. Yeah. This was.
Yeah. Although I do kind of wish this match had been in the UK instead, because I think the crowd would have been a lot better.
Oh yeah.
If they had done this match at Money in the Bank, that would have been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was a lot of really good moves in this. It was just really hard hitting, really. Just really hard. In comparison to a lot of other Gunther matches, like compared to the, Sheamus match, Classic Castle, and the Triple Threat at Mania, this was not as good as those, but it was still pretty great.
Not as good as some of the Walter matches either, like Ilya Dragunov and Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate and all those matches from the UK days.
But it was a very, very, very hard-hitting match that I very much was into.
And I was wrong about my prediction. He did not win dirty. He won completely clean, as always.
Yeah.
It is unique having a heel wrestler that has managers at ringside, but he wins all his matches clean.
Because he's good. Because he's that good, and that's the character.
That's what I like about Gunther, is he's portrayed like an actual sports player. Because there are disliked sports players that win a lot because they're really good at what they do.
Like he's an absolute dickhead, but he's also about honor in terms of sacred like wrestling.
Yeah. So
he will win his way, and that's absolutely beating the shit out of you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because the typical American heel is someone who breaks the rules to win, whereas Gunther is the opposite. He follows the rules so hard that he's the kind of person that gets angry at you if you don't follow the rules. He's a wrestling conservative, is what you could call him. He's all about this is, and that's why I love. One of the things I loved about he did in interviews leading up to WrestleMania is he was complaining about the triple threat match, because the triple threat stipulation is a modern idea, and he hates the idea of a triple threat match because it's not traditional. That's really in character for him. He's like, I come from a background of traditional old school pro wrestling, and I don't think triple threat matches represent our sport. That's such a great little detail that for Gunther's character, for him to be saying that in interviews. And it has a kind of double meaning, because it's like, not only does he respect the honor and tradition of the sport, but also as a heel in a triple threat match, he could lose his title without being pinned as well. So he's a very intelligent person, is old Gunther. And what I also love about his matches is they're not all the same. That's why him having a long title reign is so good, because it doesn't get repetitive. He thinks of different ways to win a match every time, which is actually... Because
he doesn't have just one move that he wins by.
Yeah.
He wins with a lot of different moves.
Which is rare for WWE, because WWE love their branding and they love their, you recognize this move, that move, blah, 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 blah. But what I love about Gunther is you could genuinely believe he'll win a match with anything. I mean, there were matches in NXT UK where he would win with a chop. He would just chop someone to the chest and pin them. And it was believable. Because everything he does look like almost like half the big moves he does look like it could actually end a match, and you believe it. And not only is it because of the way the move looks, it's also because we've been shown on TV that he has won matches with these moves.
Yeah.
It's kind of what...
He's
like,
great.
It's kind of like what they did with Bryan Danielson when he first came to AEW, is he had like 10 straight matches and won it with a different move each time. And that's a match that sadly we probably will never get, that I'd love to see, is Gunther versus Bryan Danielson. Imagine that match. That would be so good. But yes, definitely a real good match. Thumbs up. And then we move on to the World Heavyweight Championship match, which is a rematch from Money in the Bank. We had Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. I thought... So at Money in the Bank, they were actually one of the lowlights of the show, but I actually think they were one of the highlights of this show. I really, really liked this whole presentation.
Yeah, I think this is probably in terms of everything, accounting for everything, the feud, the story, the performances, and the match itself, this was probably my favorite thing on the show.
Yeah, in terms of in-ring, I think I'd say Cody Brock in terms of the in-ring story, but in terms of the overall package, from how it's been handled on TV and at a previous pay-per-view, and the characters involved, all the little details, this was definitely the most overall package-wise, the best booked match on the show, for sure.
Yeah, I think I had a feeling that once they pretty much said they were going to continue this feud, I was like, okay, with the first match, there's a lot of decent stuff there. And I think now, since then, Finn's sort of story has really been well built in terms of his character at this moment in time. And with the mix of everything with Judgment Day going on at the moment, I think, this is like feud story with Seth and the Judgment Day has actually been really well built throughout.
And I
think the match itself was really, really good.
And what they've been doing really well, especially with utilizing TV time and also the matches, is they're kind of going through for the shades of grey approach that they did with the Bloodline, where you've got... I don't think that, like, technically on paper, Rollins is the babyface and Balor's the heel, but there's a lot of things about both of those characters that cross over, in the sense that there are things that Rollins does that are very heelish, like how he came out with his SummerSlam 2016 jacket and his entrance.
Yes.
To rub it in his face.
That was so good.
Yeah.
That was fucking great.
Yeah. And
that's the Rollins, that's the kind of Rollins I think this last couple, like, months or so, we've kind of been missing. You know, that kind of Rollins. You know, the architect, the guy who's going to mess up with your head, plays mind games. Yeah, that's the sort of Rollins that since he's won the title, we've kind of been missing, really.
So he is a babyface, and he gets a good reaction from the crowd, and they sing a song. But he is also arrogant, and he is also cocky, and he rubs it in your face. that how good he is.
Yeah, this character of Rollins was probably, I would say, his most consistent and like best was during the Roman feud, because it played into him being that sort of, while he's laughing and sort of having like, you know, being a bit of a joker, he is also playing mind games, and he's really good at that. And that's the sort of character I feel like that's been missing from him for quite a while. I think this Rollins is what we need for the next month, you know. And then he's playing into the fact that what happened here, he should absolutely be trying to play that up on Raw tonight. He needs to be doing that kind of stuff, because I think that version of this character of Rollins is probably the best version of this sort of Joker character.
And then also with Finn Balor, who is technically the heel in the match, but with this feud specifically, his grudge is actually understandable because of what happened in 2016, which was legitimately unfair. And the fact that it's all being rubbed in his face and he's having to relive this trauma from 7 years ago all over again is actually a really sympathetic side to him, despite the fact that he still is trying to cheat to win and all that, like with the briefcase. It's really interesting dynamic with the characters. And I thought the finish was really creative. The way that they had Balor tried to use the briefcase that Priest gave him, but then Rollins curb stomped him on it. And there's all this uncertainty about, did Priest just make a mistake, or was he genuinely trying to sabotage him? And you don't know which one it is. And I think one of my favorite bits of acting from the end of the match was when the camera was on Priest and he just looked like he was just over it. He's just like, I'm just so sick of this. I'm sick of this bullshit. And then when Balor looks at Priest like, what the fuck have you just done? You've cost me again.
Yeah. I think this match, I would have probably preferred Balor winning just on a preference, but for what they actually did, this was a really good finish.
Yeah, for sure. I think in terms of like progressing the characters, it definitely, Balor losing this match doesn't damage him. I think this just adds a whole nother layer to the beef between the Judgment Day. This was the best booked thing on the show for sure.
Oh,
and also I love the detail of Balor did the buckle bomb onto the barricade like at 2016.
Yes, so that's great. And then then what I liked later in the match, Seth did 2 buckle bombs in the ring. I thought it was pretty great. His gear being like a replica, kind of, with some of his new like stuff and like flair to it, like his 2016 gear was just great. I loved that. Fucking brilliant.
The only thing for me really is that, and this is just probably a personal thing, is I've been so overexposed to both of these guys that when it comes to like removing the story, because the story was great, but when you remove the story from it and you just look at it as a wrestling match, I find it's all like really, you know, well done and everything, very athletic, but I don't find either of these guys exciting to watch in a vacuum anymore, for the most part, because I've just seen everything they get, like almost every match, every move they did in this match I've seen them do 100 times before. And that's probably a consequence of overexposure on TV. Not to say that
I don't really feel that. So I don't feel that personally.
I mean,
I'm always excited to watch.
Although interestingly, I felt the exact same way in their 2016 match, but I think that was probably a worse match than this was anyway. Partly because of the injury, probably made things a bit more difficult for them to.
I'd have to rewatch that match. So. Because my memories on like the match specifically are kind of fuzzy. I think a lot of people are more distracted on the shitty Universal title design.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and that sort of did ruin the match a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a wrestling standpoint, I enjoy matches that both these guys have had with other people more, because I think their dynamics with other people work much more effectively. So from like I don't know. I don't really feel that. I think they've got really good chemistry together, and I think they always produce really good matches when given the time, and with the story itself, I think really heighten this match. I don't think I would agree. I mean, I've always had this thing with Finn Balor where a lot of his moves don't look like they hurt. They just look like they're really choreographed and rehearsed. and it just doesn't look like it's. There's that drop kick he does where he drop kicks them into the corner, and I've never ever felt like it's looked like it's like a real move. It's always looked really like rehearsed, especially when he was babyface. It's a bit different now because of the way he transitions between moves are different as a heel. But when he was doing his babyface run, a lot of his stuff looked really rehearsed to me. A lot of his matches were very repetitive, but that might just be a booking issue with the babyface.
I would argue his character is very good at being very precise and in his position. In wrestling, I would argue. I think he's very calculated in terms of how he wrestles. I think, and maybe to you comes across as maybe choreographed. I don't see it that way. I think he's a very, like I said, he's very honed in on what he wants to do, and his match, they told the story of him trying to work his arm, which I think was very good. And I think all the moves related to that, I think was very well worked. So I guess I just disagree. I think the wrestling of this match was very well done, and I think it actually told the story they wanted to tell really well. Yeah, I think Finn and Balor are great in the ring together.
I mean, it's probably I'm being harsh because I'm comparing it to like other matches that are also really good. I'm not saying anything about it's bad, but in terms of the kind of wrestling I like to watch, comparing it to, for example, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. That match has a rough and tumble element to it that makes it so much more painful to sit through.
It's cliche to say, but it's David versus Goliath. That's what that story is.
And like what I was saying before about
Brock is great at.
The way that Cody Rhodes bumps and sells is just so rough, and there's something about that makes it feel a lot more real to me than a lot of this. However, on the other side of that is the actual booking and the narrative and the story and the characters, which was all really, really, really good. And I think Triple H, as head of creative, is doing a really good job right now, seeing what the success of the Bloodline has been and trying to create something similar to that kind of level with the Judgment Day on Raw, trying to be like, right, how can I craft all these different characters that weave within each other within this faction and who they're feuding with, and create these shades of grey that create these stories that people want to see. I think he's doing a really good job with it, and this match has probably been one of the highlights of the Judgment Day overall, probably. For sure. Story-wise.
Yeah, I would say, and I also would say with this match, I think there was a lot of really great near falls in this match. And I think as it got near to the end, the crowd really got into the match. Because I think a lot of people... Because I watched half of the show, and then I think I just fell asleep, unfortunately, because obviously living in the UK. It's tough to watch these shows. It just is, and that's just the nature of the beast. I knew Seth had won this match, but I think the actual near falls, like Balor hitting the coup de grace and Rollins kicking out, I think was a great near fall. Oh yeah, and this was there was a lot of really great near falls in this match.
When he hit the coup de grace, I genuinely thought that was the end of the match. 100%. I would have bet money on it. I thought that was the end, and I was like, Jesus.
Because not many people kick out of it. I can't remember the last time someone kicked out of a coup de grace in my mind. Maybe Edge did, but I don't remember that because that match wasn't. Not gonna lie, that match isn't very memorable.
Yeah, well, also that had an injury in it.
Yeah. But true. Very true. But yeah, like I said, the finish of this match, we discussed, I think was really great.
Oh yeah.
Balor was on top. Eirich with Priest. I'm really excited for that eventual Balor Priest match.
For sure.
I'm really excited for that because that's gonna happen at some point.
Oh yeah, and I think their styles will mesh extremely well.
Oh, I agree. Because Priest is great. Balor's great. They absolutely.
Yeah.
Priest is so good in the ring.
For sure. Good stuff.
Yeah, I think this match did a lot for the feud, I think. And the fact that this is probably, whether Seth is still a part of the story or not, we'll see on Monday, I guess. But I think this match did a lot for the feud, I think. And for the overall Judgment Day story.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Mm-hmm. I think this is probably personally my favorite thing on the show, mixed with everything going for it.
Yep. I mean, it's certainly, if there is a match on this show that makes you want to tune into the TV going after it, it's definitely this one.
This definitely did.
Yeah. And then we get the triple threat match for the women's championship with Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Charlotte Flair, which I said on the predictions was one that needed to have it definitely needed to be booked a certain way for it to work. Both of us were wrong in our prediction that Asuka would retain, and we were double wrong by the end.
Well, yeah, because I didn't think, I didn't think there was going to be a cash in.
Yeah,
on this show.
Yeah. So again, as we said, the C4 entrance with Bianca was stupid. That should just never have happened. It was ridiculous.
Kind of cringe. Cringe.
But having said that, I think to give some praise to the presentation, I thought the attires were really good, and I loved Asuka's entrance, the way she ran down the ramp and then removed her mask, and the camera was tilted. That was awesome. I loved that. She is great. Her look is great. Yep, just unlimited.
all three of them look great. In terms of attire and their looks. Look great.
Asuka just has unlimited charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I think this is sort of... Yeah, this was probably the best Bianca's looked in a while, I'd say.
Yeah, I had a feeling that this match booking-wise, was going to be centered around what are we doing with Bianca in terms of character, because Asuka's character is not one that is... I'm not going to use the word stagnant, but it's like we already know who she is, and then for some reason with Charlotte Flair, they like to keep her the way she is. But with Bianca, it's actually where is she going from here?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the booking around this match centered on what are we doing with her, which is why they had the moment where she gets pushed. Like she early in the match starts selling her knee, and then eventually she gets pushed over the rope and bangs her knee on the floor, and she sells an injury, which I thought she did a brilliant job at selling that, making people believe it was real. The way she screamed and howled when she hit her knee on the floor, and the way they were...
I thought how they presented it was actually really good in terms of not showing it. The sound of it made it seem like it was a lot more serious than it actually was.
Yeah.
I think eventually I knew when like the doctors came out and they were dragging away. It's like, okay, I think I know what they're gonna do here, and I think it was fine. I think they did it. It could have been a lot worse. Definitely.
They did the commentary team did the tone of voice the tone of voice from when Owen Hart died in 1999. It's that tone of voice that they used. It's such a shame that she had to be taken out, but we have to focus on what's in the ring. Like, it was very serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the match itself, I think, was slightly. It felt slightly dysfunctional at times.
It was a bit clunky.
Think it felt a bit clunky, unfortunately. It wasn't terrible, but I think, they're just something didn't work for whatever reason. Just the performers weren't at the Ray game, unfortunately. I think the story they tried to tell was interesting. I'm not a fan of Asuka being pinned, because it makes her feel like it felt she was very much the third wheel, and she has been throughout this feud, to be honest. So that only just highlighted that issue for me.
I would have preferred.
Shame.
Honestly, I would have preferred if Asuka had pinned Bianca while she was in the figure 4 leg lock.
Here's the thing, right? I'm not actually getting cashed in on. I think she should have pinned Charlotte, and then that would have played in. And the fact that they had a miss, they absolutely could have done that, and Charlotte wouldn't have lost anything. I feel like they should have had Charlotte be pinned by Bianca Because I'm not against having like even just it being a shock. Because I don't think, because where I think they're gonna go, but now they might not go that because they might have Bianca go for it. But what I want them to do is have Io Sky against Asuka. So having Bianca win the belt by pinning Charlotte, but then she gets pinned by Sky, I would say would be the perfect way to have the Sky Asuka match, because they wouldn't have been, Asuka wouldn't have been pinned by Sky, who cashes in. Because I think Bianca winning and being cashed in on, I think is a good way to do the cash in, but she should have pinned Charlotte, and that's how I see it.
Yeah. But I guess maybe
I think that should have been the way to go.
I guess maybe they came up with the idea of the figure 4 thing because of the targeting the knee.
No, yeah, absolutely. But I think you could have had it be Asuka, like, missed Charlotte, and she just breaks out of it. She just like completely lets it go and tries to sort herself out. But then you have Bianca actually get the upper hand on Asuka by surprise, and then pins Charlotte by doing the, her finisher.
Yeah, true. You could have done.
There was a way you could have done that. You could have done that. I think. I don't hate in terms of an isolated incident. I'm not against the finish of her being in a submission, but it's weaker because Charlotte has been missed, and her actually then getting a roll-up pin during a submission. I'm not against that in isolation. I just don't think they should have pinned Asuka.
Yeah.
Because now that makes me think that they are going to have Io Sky against Bianca at Payback. Because I've just thought about it, and I feel like that they might be going that way. And I just think Asuka against Io Sky is the match, I think. I feel like that's a lot of potential. I
mean, if you want to do a double turn, Io Sky versus Bianca is a match where you could do a double turn, but maybe not yet.
You could. That's true. That's, to be fair, that's not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But the issue is that I don't know if they're gonna do that. That's, I guess, another issue. I guess
I would have thought that you'd want to do that a bit later, though. It might be too soon for that.
Maybe around just before the end of the year, I'd say, like lead up to Rumble, like after Survivor Series time, maybe would probably be the best time to do it. Because you can have Bianca like continually trying to earn opportunities, but continuing to get more and more frustrated. As time goes on.
I do wonder though, like what's going to happen with all those sponsors that love having Bianca Belair as their
and that's another thing why I don't think she's going to turn heel anytime soon.
Yeah, and also she's very heavily involved in all the the charity stuff like Make a Wish, Be a Star. Like she's doing the John Cena thing. So turning her heel is going to be a ballsy move. I'd like to see it from a character perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could probably just turn Io Sky face because she can absolutely be, a top wrestler in the company.
That's why I said that you could do a double turn with Bianca and Io.
What we haven't actually discussed is the possible. Well, it's possible. It seemingly is confirmed of Kairi Sane.
That's right.
That's going to be interesting going forward.
Are we going to see? Are we just going to see like a Joshi wrestler thing on SmackDown now with Asuka, Io, and Kairi?
Well, I think she has. I think I read she has a couple more dates to do, and then November times is seemingly when she'll come back.
November time, which is when they have the War Games pay-per-view, possibly.
So yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with Kairi Sane. If she's gonna, I think they probably put her on SmackDown, because I think having Asuka, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane on the same brand is money.
Well, the thing
is a match I'd love to see.
The problem is if they put her on Raw, she'll get one match with Rhea Ripley, and then she'll just do nothing.
She'll be put in a tag team with Raquel Rodriguez, unfortunately.
Oh God, no, we don't need another one of those.
Because I think SmackDown has a really good women's roster on it.
It does. The Raw one is...
Raw has a couple... Yeah, Raw has a couple, like,
I mean,
you has Zoe Stark, Becky, and Trish.
you could argue that Rhea Ripley is the best women's wrestler on the
Yeah.
roster.
Oh yeah, and yes, exactly. Yeah.
But the division under her isn't.
Well, yeah, you've got a lot of like mid card wrestlers other than like Becky, Zoe Stark, and Trish Stratus, really.
Yeah.
SmackDown, meanwhile, has a lot of really good wrestlers on the brand.
Yeah.
You've got obviously everyone from Damage Control. Yeah, obviously Dakota Kai, Bayley, Io Sky, and obviously you've got Charlotte, Bianca Belair, and Asuka. That is some serious talent. Just those 6 wrestlers alone. Yeah, and seeing Kairi Sane against Charlotte or even Bianca Belair, I would love to see that.
On SmackDown, they also have really talented women that aren't utilized in like a main event role. I mean, I've just seen I believe it's on SmackDown. They've repackaged Shotzi, haven't they? They've shaved her head. Is that Raw or SmackDown?
Yeah, that's SmackDown. Yeah, they did do that, and she's probably going to go in a feud with Bayley, seemingly.
Yeah, and then obviously, even though she doesn't have too many matches, at some point, if they wanted to turn Scarlett into a singles, she has a lot of potential because she's really, really good.
Possibly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Kairi Sane back. Because we both rewatched her match with Shayna Baszler from one of the NXT takeovers pretty recently, and we even discussed like her coming back possibly, so that's quite funny.
Yeah, SmackDown.
So I'm looking forward to seeing her back.
That SmackDown women's division looks like it could be cooking if Kairi Sane joins it.
Oh, honestly, yeah. Fucking hell, what a roster that is.
I can guarantee if they're gonna do a women's War Games match, it's gonna be the SmackDown women.
Oh, it probably should be, yeah.
Yeah.
It probably should be. You can do 4 versus 4, definitely, if you have Kairi come to SmackDown.
Yeah. The Raw women's division is missing like a Sasha Banks, for example, or a Naomi.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, yeah.
If those two came back onto Raw, then you'd have both brands with a real good.
Yeah, because you've got
vision.
Becky, Trish, like I said, you've got Becky, Trish, and Zoe Stark, who are all really good, but they're all entrenched in a feud right now that's going to go till Payback, most likely.
Well, imagine if the Raw women's match at WrestleMania was Rhea Ripley versus Sasha Banks. Imagine that. That would be great.
Oh, that sounds good.
That sounds juicy.
Good. Yeah.
Anyway, so after the match, Io Sky cashed in on Bianca.
And it was great. Really good. I had a smile on my face. Great moment.
And Dakota came back to celebrate with her.
Yes. Oh, that was so nice. That was so
The Rick Dog.
Yeah. That was great. You could tell Dakota was like really emotional about it as well. Like, because like they said on commentary, this time last year is when Damage Control emerged, and they both Io Sky and Dakota Kai were rehired and brought back.
And I love it.
A year later,
you know what I love about it? Because the one person that was always holding down Damage Control was Bianca, and they cashed in on her.
Yeah. That's why I'm not against her winning here and then getting cashed in on.
That's the ultimate revenge, though, right? Is that was the feud, is Damage Control versus Bianca, and now they've cashed in on her. And that feud gets to restart, but now it's going to be better because it's on SmackDown and they've got these character dynamics changing now. It's not just going to be what
Bianca
it was
and friends.
Yeah, what it was on Raw was very. I don't know. It just wasn't. It wasn't fully formed. But I think now what you could do with Damage Control and Bianca is actually really interesting. And I think they are probably going to do Charlotte versus Bianca at WrestleMania. That wouldn't surprise me.
I think so, probably. That's a match that would be pretty good.
Yeah. And they're probably...
It doesn't even really even need the title, really.
If I was to hazard a guess... Yeah, but I know, but if I was to hazard a guess what the women's title matches would be at Mania, I would say it's probably going to be Bianca versus Charlotte and Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. That would be my guess.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I mean we got a small segment of Bianca and Charlotte in this match, and they definitely have a tense chemistry together in the ring, especially with the striking.
It's a shame about Asuka. Kind of be the third wheel.
Yeah, because Asuka's great. Oh well. Good for Io Sky though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, fantastic.
And also I like how, because you know how they're talking about how Finn Balor and Damian Priest can't get on the same page and they're fucking up each other's chances. With Bayley and Io, they actually did the opposite, where they worked together well to do the cash in. And they did it properly. In terms of, because remember we did the, unfortunately it's dated now because of this show, but we did the ranking of all the cash-ins. I wonder where we would put the Io Sky one in comparison to the
think
others.
this is probably up there. I think.
Certainly for the women's ones, it's up there.
Mm.
We might have to wait and see we might have to see in how the championship reign pans out.
Mm. But in terms of just the cash-in, I think, characters make sense. They absolutely, they attacked Charlotte and Bella and Asuka outside. They took them out, and Io just went in there and won.
Mm.
No fuss or hassle.
I can't remember exactly what my list was, but I think this would probably be up there with sort of around the, sort of maybe just above like the sort of the Kane cash-in, around that part of my list, maybe around like the early 10s. That sounds about right to me. Well, interestingly, it would probably be similar to what Bayley's cash-in was.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. The Bayley's cash-in was elevated by the reign she had of the heel turn she had after it as well. That's a key part, is what happens after. So yeah, I think overall the women's stuff was a thumbs up, but it did have some issues.
Yeah, the match itself, yeah.
I think the presentation at the start of the match, where they announced the three women in the ring and they had the lights go dark and they had the spotlight on, that was really, really well done, I thought. Made the three of them look like actual legit stars, because they are. And I think there's a lot of potential with Bianca Belair going forward if they turn her heel. Especially because they turned her husband heel on SmackDown, and that, it looks like it's going to be cooking with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Yep. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the Street Profits going forward as heels. So they've pulled the trigger on that part of it, but will they do it with Bianca? That's the real question. I'm also interested to see if they do turn her heel, what is her in-ring style going to be like going forward? Like a Bianca Belair. I mean, obviously she was a heel in NXT, but this is a whole different phase of her career now. She's developed. So a main roster heel Bianca, what would her matches be like? It's going to be weird if they end up doing a heel Bianca versus babyface Charlotte match at WrestleMania. Because people will just cheer for Bianca, won't they? Because she's so much more like, I mean, obviously when Bianca was basically the unbeatable Raw Women's Champion, that had to get grating. But if they do what I think they're gonna do with her character, she might just get super over as a heel against Charlotte. Because Charlotte is just naturally dislikable no matter what.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you add a bit of pizzazz and a bit of spice and a bit of, arrogance and a bit of anger to Bianca's character, I think she could get really over as a heel. Because she does have charisma. And she can go either way, really, She can do the really marketable, child-friendly babyface, but she can turn heel as well if she wants to.
Yeah.
She can show that aggressive side. It just feels like they're really, really like making us wait for it, which is probably the right way to do it, to be honest. Take your time, because you got lots of hours of TV to work with. But yeah, they gave 20 minutes to the match, which I'm glad they did that. That was the right call.
Yeah,
Anyway,
definitely.
speaking of giving a lot of time to a match, shall we talk about the main event?
Yeah, I guess we shall.
So, the Bloodline again, as they usually are in the main event. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. This was 36 minutes bell to bell. This was like a New Japan Wrestle Kingdom main event level. It was so long. Where do we start with this match? There's a lot to talk about with this match because there was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
So this was for the Undisputed Universal Championship, even though it's not undisputed because there's a world title. Although I think with this one, it's a bit more believable if they say undisputed than with the women's one. But it was for the title, and it was for the recognition of the tribal chief of the Anoa'i family. And it was supposedly a tribal combat match, which we were told on TV that the rules of that are that members of the tribe can't interfere. Which is weird because that's exactly what happened.
2 people did.
Yep.
Well, Solo, yeah.
Yeah.
Solo. And I guess if Jimmy still considers himself a part of that, even though both Jimmy and Jay got kicked out of the bloodline.
Well, I mean, in terms of like the actual literal bloodline, they count. It doesn't matter matter what they think, like what they think they are.
Yeah.
In terms of what the elders consider, Arthur and Sika, what they consider as part of the tribe, they are in it, whether they like it or not.
Yeah. So really, this was just a hardcore match.
Yeah, it was. And I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about this match. To be honest, I'm a little bit lost. Because there's things I like about it. There's things I don't like about it. I definitely think this is, in terms of like the Tribal Chief Roman main events, I think this is one of the weakest ones we've had in a while, probably since the Vince era.
Probably since the Finn Balor match.
Oh yeah, the Finn Balor match was garbage. Oh, I'd say the Brock match at WrestleMania 38.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was more recent. But in terms of the Triple H era, this is probably one of the weaker ones that Reigns has had. Not to say that it
really shouldn't have been.
I mean, not to say that it was a terrible match. It wasn't like...
No, it wasn't terrible. No.
Yeah. And like, people will say, oh, are you saying that because you thought it was too long? It's like, no, the 36 minutes thing annoys me only because I wish that Trish and Becky were on the show. I didn't find it dragged. I just think it wasn't about really the length I had an issue with. It was more so just the story. It was really muddled. It didn't feel as focused as the Money in the Bank tag match was, or the one at Night of Champions, or even WrestleMania, even though I didn't like the very end of the WrestleMania match. And even the match with Zayn at Chamber, the match with Kevin Owens at Royal Rumble. All those matches felt really, really focused, and the way that they told the story throughout the match was really, really well done throughout. This match didn't. This match had a lot of just stalling. It had a lot of stalling and a lot of walking around, and there's a lot of really good, facial stuff that they did. But in terms of the overall story that they told, this felt really, really standard for a WWE main event. This felt like something that you would get from a storyline that was less developed than this one, in terms of the way it was booked. This felt like a very, very what I would expect from another kind of main event from a different era. And I guess the big talking point, I mean, outside of the fact that the literal tribal combat rules weren't followed and didn't make sense. Also, one thing I think we forgot to mention about the Cody match with Brock, there was that moment where, what was it, with the stairs? Do you remember the bit with the steel stairs?
Oh, yes.
That was
that
weird,
actually
wasn't
did
it?
annoy me. Yeah, that was stupid.
I
That was
think
really stupid.
I think Cody forgot he wasn't in AEW anymore because the AEW referees don't disqualify that shit.
Oh, I completely forgot about that, and that actually was the one part of the match before the three crossroads that actually kind of annoyed me
Yeah,
because
that
that
was
should
weird.
be a DQ.
Yeah, especially with
And
the
they didn't
WWE
even try to say like ref's discretion at all.
No,
they didn't try
especially
to.
with the standards of the WWE referees, they're really strict.
Mm-hmm. That was so strange. That was so weird.
Yeah, it was a weird moment. But anyway, the tribal combat rules weren't followed. There was no repercussions yet. I mean, maybe on TV there will be repercussions from the elders. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's confusing. But the real and I remember as soon as they went into the crowd and Solo Sikoa appeared, I was just like, oh, here we go. For fuck's sake, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
And I really don't like Solo Sikoa's character is interesting and the tension he has with Roman Reigns is really interesting, but I don't like how they constantly use him as a plot device for these matches. It just pisses me off how they always do it with him. It's always the same thing over and over again. I mean, it annoyed me at WrestleMania when he did the Samoan Spike, but I think this was possibly even more egregious because it was the rules literally stated that he couldn't be part of the match, and yet he still was. I thought, okay, maybe if he stays only in the crowd, it would be like, okay, so he's out of the bounds of the match, therefore it was fair game. But he got into the ring. He got involved in the match within the boundaries of where the match was supposed to take place, and that, for me, is stupid. That should have never happened. And then we get the ending, which has divided a lot of opinion. A lot of people really didn't like it and don't think it makes sense because there's not really been any build up to it. And I feel like a lot of how this is overall going to be viewed down the line in hindsight is going to depend on how they explain it on TV going forward, what kind of story they do with it. But we had Jimmy Uso turn heel on Jay, which I just don't understand why. I don't, with a lot of the other twists and turns they've done with the bloodline, I've always been like, okay, I understand how they got to that point. I can understand where this got to there. With Jimmy, I can say on paper in a vacuum, if you forget all the TV they've done, I go, well, he's jealous because he's main event Jey Uso and Jimmy never got that, and he wishes that he did. But the problem I have with that is that with all of the stuff they've done on TV, it makes it look like that's not the case. Jimmy Uso never came across as jealous to me on TV. He never did. And so to hold that grudge for like 3 years and for it to never be foreshadowed, I think is a strange choice. And this came out of left field for a lot of people. Some people would even say it's jumping the shark. So I don't really know how to feel about the Jimmy Uso heel turn, honestly, because I don't get it. I don't get the meaning behind it. This feels like a swerve for the sake of creating a story as opposed to one that's, that makes sense for the story, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. Right, they are now facing, like they did at Mania, they're now facing a massive kill to convince us this A, makes sense, and B, worth doing this. It's I feel like there's not really anything you can do to justify Jimmy. The only thing, and this was suggested on a podcast by someone, this is the only thing that I think has any sort of chance of maybe saving it, is as if Jimmy did it for the reason if Jay becomes the tribal chief, he could become like Roman, and that's the only thing I could see that could possibly work. But the issue is that there's never really been that inkling of that's what Jay would do.
The thing is, I feel like if they wanted to tell that story, perhaps, I mean, build up is one thing, but I feel like if that was the story, the acting on the face of Jimmy needed to be different.
Yes, he needed to be more conflicted.
It needed to be a sense of like you know when Roman Reigns did the thing where in the Hell in a Cell match where he cried before he put his cousin in the guillotine. It needed to be a case of Jimmy didn't want to do it, but felt like he had to. This didn't feel like that. This felt like jealousy to me. This felt like he hates his brother.
It felt like a full-on turn.
Yeah, this felt like to me like he did it and he wanted to do it, but for personal reasons.
Exactly. Yeah.
He wanted to sabotage his brother because he's jealous. That's what it felt like. And I don't know how they're going to do this. I mean, Paul Heyman's really, really, really smart, but I don't know how he can book his way out of this mess. Because I don't know if there is an actual way to make this believable. Maybe I could be proven wrong. Maybe they will tell a great story with them. But I don't see the reason for it. I don't think there was any problem with just having Jay lose.
No, I don't either.
Because you could have had it be, look, I tried and I didn't win, but look at all the things that I've accomplished in the last 3 years. Look where I am now. I never thought this would be possible. That is a good story in itself. You didn't need to have this.
And here's the thing, right? If I said this on the review of the Money in the Bank review. What this and the way for that to happen and not feel like, oh, Jay, we all thought Jay was going to lose, so and then that's just sort of how it played out. What you needed to do in the build up to this, you could do everything that they did already because it was great, but they needed to add the notion, like I suggested, of Roman really going fully unhinged and brutalizing. Because they sort of did that with Jimmy. They took out Jimmy completely and he was sent to the hospital. But what they really needed to push, really, was Roman becoming so unhinged at keeping, the belt and being head of the table, tribal chief. This match didn't do that. If you had it that Roman just absolutely went dead zone, brutalized Jay, completely abolish him by the end of the match, like, there's a moment like Jay is like trying to get up but he can't, and you have Roman slightly being a bit more conflicted about this. It's sort of that like, do I really want to do this? And then he goes through with it and absolutely like he puts Jay through a table, he puts him through another table, and he puts him then through another table, and that's how he wins. You can absolutely do that. They have unlocked this now psychotic version of Roman Reigns, head of the table. Like, he's just gone completely overboard. He's lost his mind, basically. He is now completely unhinged. And that's how you have Roman, continue on for the next couple months.
And
I feel. And that plays into the insecurities of Roman with potentially Solo turning on him. So then that would play into the feud going forward. I feel like was the way to probably do it if you're going to have, you just have Jay lose, and that's how you could probably do it, and it'd still be interesting. And
actually, the way that you have described it, you could do that match in 20 minutes, not 36.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
If you do that, you make Shayna and Ronda a squash match, you could have easily fit Trish and Becky on this show. Easily.
Yeah, for 15 minutes. Yeah, definitely.
Slice 15 minutes off this, slice 7 minutes off that. You've got 20 minutes of time for entrances and a 12-minute match.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. So there was nothing about this match from an athletics perspective that I disliked. I thought it was like all the moves were well done. But it's just, I find this story confusing now. This is just so, it doesn't have the same level of focus and being with the fingers no longer on the pulse like it was with the bloodline. It just feels so weird now.
It also lacks a lot of intensity at times.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember when Solo came out and they were on the outside. There was someone who was just yelling at Roman. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I think I know who that was. It was like some guy called. It might be I don't know. I'd have to double check, but it sounded like someone called Greg Miller, who's like a game journalist he also is like a WWE fan. He was so fucking obnoxious. If that is who that was, or it was just someone else, I was just like, dude, can you shut the fuck up? You're being really fucking cringe. Like, please stop trying to put yourself over.
It was a very like still real to me, damn it, kind of performance from that crowd member.
It was really cringe.
Yeah. I think. Do you think maybe because of the limits of WWE's product, you couldn't do the kind of brutal match that you would be best benefited?
No, I think they could have still done what I suggested. It doesn't have to be a bloodbath. It doesn't have to be. If you literally just have like 5 minutes of Roman, like after they have a really good intense match for 15 minutes, it gets to 20 minutes and Jay is like on his last leg, but he's still pushing through. You then have Roman just lose it and put him through like 3 tables. And then put it through the announce table, and then that be it.
Yeah, I mean the way that you do it with this product, and they did this quite a bit with NXT shows. The way you sell brutal damage in a WWE show is you make all of the pain internal as opposed to external. So instead of being a bloodbath, it's a what's happening inside your body, and it's also to do with the selling.
Like you could even have like him remove, like the way you would sell it is also through the environment as well. You can sell it through that way. Have like it actually make it absolute carnage outside the ring. Have Roman like turn off turnbuckles. Have them take apart the ring and put him through like the wooden like they did in
stuff like
Gargano Ciampa.
It's stuff like where you tear their knee pads off and you bash them into the post, like that kind of thing.
Exactly. You can still have it be a brutal match without having it like be like filled with like blood or something. That's fine. You can absolutely still brutal matches and it still be relatively PG.
You know how Roman does that guillotine submission? He just does it, but with weapons involved.
Yeah, put a chain around the neck. Put a chain around. That's how you probably can do it. Actually, that's how you could have him beat Jay. Is after all the brutal like mayhem, you have him get like a chain, wrap it around his like. Either his arm or around Jay's neck and do the guillotine that way.
Yeah, and that would be like... And he just passes out. Yeah.
That would be, honestly, that would be really good finish.
And that would have brought it all the way back to 2020 as well, because that's how he beat Jay before.
But it's now... His head is like ticked. It's now like lost... It's like sparked out basically, and that's Roman just like, I have to hold on to this. I have to do it no matter what. I don't care who it is. They're all. I'm gonna absolutely destroy them.
Yeah. So
I don't care if they're my cousins.
Yeah. So overall, the booking of this match was a disappointment, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
And that's a shame because.
There were parts of this match that I really like. I really liked the Samoan drop through the table. I think that was a really cool spot. I thought Paul Heyman was great during this. I thought Roman's selling of the crowd, as usual, was really good.
Oh, I absolutely loved when Jey Uso was dominating, and Paul Heyman's like crying. He's just like, he's your family. He's your tribal chief. He's your cousin. He's like trying to gaslight
I saw someone
him.
say like I saw people like a couple of people say like Paul was overacting. It's like this is the same level that it's always been.
No. They don't. No, he's gaslighting him. He's not. He doesn't actually feel that way. He's just trying to. He's lying to him to make. He's trying to make Jay put less punishment on so that Roman can win the match.
Yeah, because that's who the character Paul Heyman is.
Yeah, he's full of dog shit.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing.
Yeah, the spear through the table was pretty good as well. Like ending the match, that was a good spot. If you're gonna have the Jimmy term, you have to have it be more conflicting on Jimmy's part to give us the sense of, ooh, what's going on here? What like, and a couple of people said like that they're like this is something that Jay and Jimmy want to do. They want to have a feud and fight each other at Mania. It's like. I'm down for that. I know a couple of people aren't, but that you can't. it still has to be booked well. Just because two
Yeah.
wrestlers that we really like want to have a match
This-
together
this
doesn't mean
didn't-
it should be booked like piss.
This felt like Vince booking to me. This finish. It felt like Vince booking, not the Bloodline standard that I'm used to seeing.
Mhm.
This felt like the kind of thing that Vince would do with an ordinary feud.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't think this is terrible. I just think it's below the standard we come to expect from what is being considered by many as one of the greatest storylines in wrestling history. It's just weird to see it verge into this level of all right for the booking, if you know what I mean. I expect better from the Bloodline than this. It's weird because the Judgment Day now coming out of this show seems way more interesting than the Bloodline. Just based on how the matches are booked. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm not in the realm of like, oh, this has just gone on too long, I'm getting bored. I'm not of that realm of like
Neither.
I'm done. I'm in the realm of like, if this was booked well and this was like consistent and it made sense, I'm absolutely down for another couple months of Roman as champion. Like, I'm fine with that.
I don't have an issue with
Chief, sorry.
I don't have an issue with the length of the storyline. I don't have an issue with the length of the title reign, outside of the fact that if Cody had the belt, his story would be better.
Yeah, I still think Cody should have won at Mania.
But forgetting the Cody part of it, I don't have an issue with the length of the title reign. I don't have an issue with the length of the match. I don't have an issue with any of that. I'm not bored of the Bloodline. I never have been. I just think the booking could be better. That's it.
Yeah, it could be a lot better.
I just think that the standard of the booking just wasn't up to scratch.
Yeah, and I'm willing to see what they do with Jimmy. I am, before I come to proper conclusions on it. So,
I mean, hey, if they can somehow make a main event Jimmy Uso out of this, that would be great for him.
Yeah.
But it's just weird. It was just weirdly booked. Really strange.
Yeah, it's just that I currently just don't see the reasoning making sense.
Yeah, I just find it strange they put all of this effort, all these minds together, all this time, 36 minutes of bell to bell action, and they have all these years of building up the story, and this is the best they could come up with for this main event. I just find that strange. It's just a weirdly disappointing match. I don't know.
Yeah.
It made me leave the end of the show with a weird sort of confused question mark over my head.
Yeah.
It's a shame because there was some good stuff on this show for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Some real good stuff on this show.
And I guess in terms of just wrapping up this sort of a match, it's just like, I think there's absolutely a world where they could turn it around, and because they slightly did it before, even though I still think Cody should have won regardless, because you can still do all of this without the title. It can literally just be about the Bloodline and the being head of the table and that sort of thing, and it doesn't need to be for the belt because it's not really about the belt, really, story wise at the moment. Oh. But you can absolutely turn it around and it be, you'd eventually have Jimmy go against both Jay and Roman and it be a triple threat. That's a possibility, and I'd be down to see it if it's booked well. Yeah.
So yeah, interesting show. Yeah. Just an interesting show overall to talk about because it's
overall, I would probably say this is one of the weaker Triple H shows, but I don't agree that this was awful. I don't think this was the clearly worse Triple H show. This is still a good show.
It's better than Extreme Rules. Way better than Extreme Rules.
I think it was better than Extreme Rules.
Yeah,
I just think there's a couple matches that were dysfunctional.
I mean, this show on the undercard had some really good stuff on it. Like the Cody Brock match, outside of a couple of issues. The Battle Royal was really good. The Gunther Drew McIntyre match was good. The Rollins Bella match was real good. The Logan Paul vs Ricochet, even though the story's not that deep, it's still a good match. And even the women's stuff, it had a few issues, but overall it was a good package. They did some good stuff with the women. The only thing is the Shayna Ronda match was a disaster because of the booking, and it should have been something else. And even though the in-ring stuff with Roman J was fine, it's just the story. The story was just weird. But on the whole, it was mostly a really good show, bell to bell. It's just a strange way to... It's just at the end, the fact that the show ended like that is just a weird thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's a shame that the way that a show ends can affect so much of your overall take on it, really. But I also think it wasn't just the booking. I think that this crowd wasn't as good as other crowds where I was really disappointed by the lack of engagement from the crowd in a lot of the matches. For sure. Especially because like some of the WWE crowds this year have been exceptional. The Canada crowd for Elimination Chamber was exceptional. The crowd at the Royal Rumble was real good. The WrestleMania crowd, for the most part, was real good. Puerto Rico for Backlash was one of the best crowds I've ever seen. One of the most engaged crowds I've ever seen at a wrestling show. And obviously, the UK crowd at Money in the Bank was exceptional. I mean, AEW almost always has great crowds because it's a very passionate, hardcore circle of the fan base. So it's just strange to come to SummerSlam, which is such a big show at Ford Field, and the crowd was just so average. The whole atmosphere of the show just didn't feel like it was as exciting and on the same level of, spectacle that you expect from a WWE premium live event. There's something missing from this show for sure. And I think also the whole aesthetic, because they went through the Detroit aesthetic, it was missing that SummerSlam thing. Because one of the things that is unique about the SummerSlam shows is the fact that usually it has a summer aesthetic, but this didn't because it was all about cars. It just didn't feel like SummerSlam at all. It looked like a winter show, not a summer show. And that's a shame because I actually think some of the SummerSlam settings that they've had over years have been some of the coolest looking pay-per-view, I guess, presentations that they've done. Like, if you remember when they used to do the SummerSlam at the Staples Center every year for about 5 years or so, I can't remember how long they went there for, but it always looked great every year. I think it started in 2009 and then ended maybe 2017-ish. I can't remember when they did the last one, but they went to the Staples Center year after year, and it always looked really cool. But nah, this didn't. It just didn't. There was something missing from the show from a bunch of different angles, I would say.
Yeah.
And now we're about to approach a period of time with a bunch of generic pay-per-views. Payback and Fastlane. I am a bit concerned about that. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe they'll be able to pull it off with the booking. But I am conscious of the fact that we could be entering a bit of a cold period for the pay-per-views until we get to like Survivor Series, maybe.
Well, we've also got the India show that was announced not quite recently. At some point.
Yeah, but that's just going to be like a house show that's on TV. To be honest.
Possibly.
I mean, if it's anything like Night of Champions, then that's great, but I don't think it will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I think WWE was having a real hot run for a bit, and then I feel like it's starting to become. They need to reinvigorate the product somehow, because I feel like it's starting to run out of steam that it had, and now they need to come up with some new stuff. And I think there is potential for it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But especially with the fact that we're about to have an AEW stadium show, I think WWE needs to not rest on its laurels, and I think it needs to, you know, think of some new ideas. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll surprise us. I mean, it could happen. It was around this time last year that Sami Zayn joined the Bloodline, and that became one of the best things to ever happen in wrestling, with Sami Zayn in the Bloodline. So, I think also part of the issue is the WWE has been plagued with a few injuries lately. That might also be part of the issue.
Yeah, it's not great at the moment.
Yeah. Apparently, I didn't watch the show, but apparently, what was it? Was it NXT Great American Bash was a show that happened recently. Apparently, Carmelo Hayes versus Ilya Dragunov was excellent.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So your sort of overall thoughts on SummerSlam 2023?
I thought it was, for the most part, a good show, but there were two specific matches that had quite a bit of issues, and one that was a little bit more dysfunctional, but still had a pretty decent end product. So overall, I would say this show was like, if I were to rate it, I would probably say it's like a 6 or a 7, probably more on the 6 side.
Yeah. I feel like we were expecting it to be better than it was when we did the predictions. I was expecting like an 8 out of 10 show from this.
Yeah, because it could have been. That's what we said on the prediction show. It's like, this could have been like up there with, Mania Night 1. And I said the only match that could have let it down, really could have let it down, was Shayna and Ronda, which did happen, but there were also other stuff that did let it down.
I wasn't expecting the main event to be one of the lowlights of the show. That was really strange. Because at the last pay-per-view, the main event was incredible. I loved that match. I loved the Civil War match for Money in the Bank. That was awesome.
It's great. Yeah. I hope they can recover. They can, and I hope so. I hope they can recover.
It's not all doom and gloom, though, because the Judgment Day stuff is genuinely really good at the moment.
All good. All that there is great. I'm looking forward to seeing that on Raw tonight.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yes, that was SummerSlam. Another big show out the way. So in the coming weeks, we're going to be having a lot of shows that pop up. So we're probably going to be doing a lot of predictions and a lot of reviews. Because we have AEW All In, which you're going to be going to, so that's going to be really... That's, I think, is the most anticipated videos that we've done so far.
Yeah.
Because you are actually going to the show. And it's going to be interesting because you'll be able to talk about what it was like being there, whereas I'll be watching it on my screen. So we'll have different perspectives of the show.
Yes.
And then
it'll be very, very fun.
And then days after that is Payback, and then days after that is All Out. So there's a lot going on that week.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be It's gonna be a very busy couple of weeks.
Very busy.
End of the month.
End of August, start of September is going to be a busy time for us. So we'll hopefully be able to do prediction videos for those 3 and reviews for those 3 if it's possible. We'll see how we go. But yeah, those are going to be some interesting ones. All In obviously is the biggest one to talk about because that's just mind-blowing how they've nearly sold 80,000 tickets for an AEW show. Absolutely. And now they've actually started to announce matches, which is really exciting. And I'm looking forward to when we do the predictions because I've been waiting till we get to something AEW because it's been all WWE so far on this channel. But we're about to get to AEW, and that's when we really get to diversify all the content. Because we've referenced AEW here and there, but to actually be able to sit down and talk about it as the main subject will be great. I mean, I guess the closest thing we've gotten to it is when we talked about the underrated wrestlers. We mentioned a few of them in there, like Eddie Kingston, for example, that you had. But yeah, so the next video after this, I believe, will be 15 overrated wrestlers. If all goes to plan.
Yes.
I have written my list for that. So I'm prepared. Yeah. Look forward to that video. I'm sure it'll be full of hot takes and controversial topics. Yes. Let us know what you all thought of SummerSlam in the comments if you'd like. And that has been our review of SummerSlam, and I am the new champion. Let's see if are we going to have a 50-50 booking, or are we going to actually see a defense of this championship? I guess we'll find out at AEW All In. Imagine if the belt changed hands between those 3 shows in 1 week, multiple times.
Oh god, yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah. Be weird. Also, anyone who watches our main channel, there's going to be some stuff coming out on that at some point in the future. We got some ideas, and obviously we are approaching the last few months of the year, which means that I will be thinking about what to do for the Advent calendar, which now with 2 channels makes it for a very interesting prospect now that we've got such a wide range of things to draw from. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of that going on, especially the fact that in November we're going to be getting Doctor Who episodes written by Russell T Davies again, which will create a lot of big content for the main channel near the end of the year. So there's plenty of stuff to look forward to from us going forward, for sure. There's some real exciting stuff to talk about the rest of the year. So yeah, we'll see you all on that, and look forward to more lists, videos, and stuff on this channel, because I think there's a lot of stuff to chew into with wrestling that we haven't done yet. So yeah, look forward to the Overrated Wrestlers video next week and whatever comes after that. And we'll see you all next time. Bye bye.
Bye.